Staring at the shattered skyline, our main character realizes humanity actually claimed victory. Sure, the 6 demon gods who tried to entirely erase our world from existence had finally collapsed, meaning the absolute last of them, that notorious demon god of the Sea of Annihilation, was officially dead. But sadly, that cursed Sea of Demise had already devoured almost the entire surface of the planet. Cursing his miserable fate, the boy understands our human race is officially facing absolute irreversible extinction. Victory feels exactly like absolute devastation. Every single hero perished in brutal battle, and that colossal tower protecting Earth completely shattered. All the while, those violent purple waves keep relentlessly crashing without any end in sight. Watching that foul tide endlessly surge, our blacksmith realizes the corrupted ocean is just throwing an eternal massive tantrum. Suddenly, an arrogant punk named Mad Dog swaggers over, mocking our boy for acting like some tragic legendary savior. Immediately, Rabid Dog snaps back, calling him a pathetic faker, while Cold Dog joins the chaos loudly, exposing both of them as absolute parasites during the entire war. Snapping completely, our main character screams right back, reminding these absolute clowns they would be dead meat without his legendary forged weapons. Predictably, those arrogant fools absolutely lose their minds over the blacksmith's raw disrespect. Refusing to yield an inch, the fierce kid tells them to shut their mouths and aggressively challenges them to fight. Infamous as the 3 dogs, this trash trio cared absolutely nothing about human survival or stopping the demons. Their ultimate philosophy was just blindly following their savage instincts and protecting their own necks. These lunatics were genuinely the absolute worst scum on Earth. Yet, in a sick twist of fate, these absolute bastards were the only living souls left breathing. Taking a bitter breath, the boy realizes that if these cowards actually fought earlier, everything might have changed completely. Suddenly, the trio turns away, asking who was even left to rescue anymore. The red-haired freak then admits his crushed internal organs are leaving him literally running on empty. Trailing right behind the remaining 2 groan that they are equally battered, bleeding out massively from their brutal wounds. Exhaling heavily, our main character bitterly growls they should have fought from the absolute start. Left utterly alone in that nightmare wasteland, he bitterly curses those dogs for their ultimate greed. Then a suffocating silence swallows the ruined landscape. Utterly drained of energy, the boy drops hard against the freezing dirt, fully embracing his dark fate. He bitterly whispers that absolutely nothing came easy in this life, even down to his final dying breath. Yet igniting his absolute final spark of energy, the fierce blacksmith hoists his heavy hammer. Flashing back to his sweaty workshop, he grumbles how those reckless fighters never properly maintained his masterfully crafted blades. Glaring at the countless abandoned swords piercing the earth, he crowns them as humanity's grand tombstone. Soon after, raw determination ignites across the deeply bloodied face of our boy. As those colossal nightmarish waves endlessly crash closer, he truly accepts his final moment has arrived. Triggering his hidden skill, our main character boldly declares this will be the ultimate final activation of his powers. Squeezing his fist, a blinding blue aura violently erupts from his core. Instantly, a glowing system prompt pops up, officially extracting the life bond directly from himself. Radiating intense light, a mystical glowing stone rapidly materializes inside his trembling palm. Gripping the crystal tight, the legendary blacksmith unleashes his exclusive power to forge stones from deep emotional bonds, all achieved through his incredibly rare hidden class, a power that rips out human potential and connections, forging them into ore. However, targeting his own shattered soul, the forged stone spawns completely hollow, proving his life force is entirely drained. Enraged by the deeply faded, colorless ore, our hero channels every single bitter regret inside it. Wasting absolutely zero time, he ruthlessly smashes his heavy hammer down with devastating fury. Striking the cursed metal without mercy, his aggressive hammer strikes violently collide with the deafening roar of that apocalyptic ocean. Ironically, that absolute frantic forging rhythm was the only force bringing true clarity to his deeply chaotic, turbulent mind. Seconds later, a blinding pillar of pure energy violently erupts into the sky, proving some absolutely legendary masterpiece was just born. Staring at his ultimate creation, our main character discovers just a basic, pathetic dagger. Crushed by this garbage weapon, he surrenders to being utterly devoured by the monstrous crashing waves. Still sparking with pure, unyielding defiance, the fierce kid vows to face the absolute end strictly on his terms. Drenched in blood, he throws himself backward, plunging straight into the pitch-black abyss. Flashing a totally unhinged grin, our blacksmith brutally mocks his own endless, pathetic hammering, right until his final breath. Drowning deeper into that cursed demonic ocean, his battered body completely surrenders its remaining strength. Floating in this twisted, silent tranquility, he suddenly realizes that endless ringing in his head was the roaring sea of demise. Flashing through his tragic past, our hero heavily regrets missing the clues and failing to force those stubborn dogs into battle. But suddenly, his blazing golden eye snaps open, and an impossible reality violently crashes down. Instantly, multiple glowing holographic system screens loudly materialize. A holographic system window flashes before his eyes. It projects the ultimate masterpiece, displaying the exact dagger he crafted. The prompt verified his return to origin skill had triggered. Yet instantly, that glowing interface completely splintered into digital dust. It declared the one image ability was trashed. Gasping for air, our boy bolts upright, completely stunned that he is still breathing, while a voice screams out his name. Totally disoriented, he spots a furious teacher absolutely losing his mind over an entrance test. Scanning the room, our main character realizes he is standing inside a smithy from 31 years ago. He seriously believes his brain just snapped. Recalling that glowing text right before his death, he desperately tries to wrap his head around this insane reality. Mind blown by his insane fortune, our smith figures out that trashy pebble actually triggered a temporal rewind. While he zones out, the mentor continues barking insults, threatening to expel him on the spot. Zeroing out the grumpy boomer, our guy tightly wraps his fingers around the anvil striker. Letting the heavy truth sink in, he questions if rewinding the clock can actually stop the upcoming apocalypse. Shaking off the hesitation, he knows being negative right now will not solve absolutely anything. Locking onto his ultimate mission, our lead swears to weaponize this miracle second chance to its absolute maximum potential. Smirking with pure resolve, he silently vows that 0 lives will be lost under his protection this time around. His initial objective immediately locks in. He must crush this annoying entrance test flawlessly. Plus, he is already plotting to hunt down those 3 absolute slackers as soon as possible. Crashing his tool onto the steel, a blinding shockwave of light floods the entire room, totally jump-scaring the bystanders completely out of their boots. A one-eyed veteran watches with his jaw practically glued to the floor at the sheer raw power. Mesmerized by the rhythmic swings, the elder realizes every single impact lands with terrifying perfection. Meanwhile, our genius creator effortlessly molds the glowing metal with god-tier precision, leaving the entire crowd absolutely stunned silent. Our hero instantly proves that he did not cheat death just to mess around with basics. Blinded by the gleaming edge, the helper internally screams about how ridiculously polished the weapon looks. Totally baffled, he questions if the teenager seriously forged that solo. Blown away, the scarred teacher notes they scored a monster recruit this season. Hearing that final devastating slam, the veteran guarantees submitting that gear would grant an instant, flawless victory. Out of nowhere, a vicious snap violently shatters the silence as shrapnel explodes everywhere, absolutely paralyzing the judges. Chuckling softly to himself, our guy confesses his skills are still rusty, completely refusing to submit utter garbage. By obliterating his own masterpiece mid-exam, he ensures no mid-tier trash will ever leave his anvil. Triggered by the pure disrespect, the age shrieks, labeling him an arrogant punk who treats crafting like a literal joke. Ice-cold, our hero stares directly into the evaluator eyes and demands a total reset from 0. Boiling over with rage, the assistant attempts to blast the rookie and order him to zip it. Shutting down the pathetic tantrum instantly, our lead points at the bench, demanding the backup supplies immediately. Flexing his aura, he dares the guy to complain or asks if he needs to fetch it personally. Spooked by the crushing intimidation, the helper scrambles like a clown to grab the minerals. Observing this flex, the elder reminds him they only have 40 minutes on the clock. Not even flinching, the teen states he perfectly understands the brutal time crunch. Intrigued by this insane confidence, the veteran questions if scrapping the blade was truly the smartest move. Glaring dead at the shattered fragments, the smith doubles down, swearing he would never hand over actual trash. Hyped by the sheer audacity, the evaluator dares him to go all out. Eyes blazing with pure fire, our guy instantly formulates a chaotic new strategy. Drenched in sweat before the blazing forge, he realizes his past physical limits. 0 magic capacity, 0 muscle density, and basically 0 seconds for a flawless craft. Backed into a corner, he decides it is time to unleash a dangerously unhinged method. Throwing raw crystals straight into the inferno, he leaves the sidekick totally bewildered by this bizarre workflow. Spiraling into sheer panic, the assistant spots the crazy rookie forcefully pumping aura directly into the blast rocks, and shrieks. The entire room is about to detonate. Blocking out the frantic wailing, our guy commands the coward to pipe down and witness true greatness. Utterly convinced they are dead, the helper eyes bulge out, treating this like a suicidal prank. Boom. A massive eruption of prismatic fire entirely swallows the kiln, bathing the workshop in blinding neon hues. Convinced his skin is about to melt off, the lackey hysterically screeches for a fire extinguisher immediately. Slicing through the pathetic drama, the scarred elder barks at the fool to shut up and study the actual sorcery happening. Gesturing toward the raging inferno, the master points out how those wild sparks are actually dancing in absolute perfect harmony. Bathing in the demonic heat, our absolute madman smirks, officially triggering the legendary 5-color flame grinding art. Mixing 5 rare ignition stones, he ignites a blazing inferno, a flex of absolute mind-bending thermal control. This big brain move drains barely any mana, perfectly bypassing his fragile physical stats. while saving the workshop from total destruction. Whispers instantly ripple through the crowd as the stunned assistant catches a totally mind-blowing detail. Freaking out over the violent chemical reaction, he gasps as the solid metal ingot completely shifts its core color. The sharp-eyed professor immediately clocks the genius play the kid manipulated the metal, using pure stone resonance. The veteran calculates the insane speed boost, yet still sweats over the brutal 30-minute time limit. Flashing back to the shattered blade from earlier, the examiner desperately wonders what hidden cards remain. Meanwhile, our main character blitzes against the clock. The professor doubts his survival, but the boy pushes through dripping ice-cold sweat. Blinding sparks erupt across the anvil. Suddenly hitting 0 mana, his thermal shield shatters and he aggressively curses his frailty, vowing to seriously grind his physical stats later. Swallowing the burning pain, the young blacksmith grits his teeth in defiance. Entering the endgame, he completely ignores the massive risks and rapid-fires his hammer strikes. Every single millisecond matters now. Smashing straight through his physical limits, our main character drops the hammer with devastating force, entirely blacking out his exhaustion. With just 10 minutes left on the clock, the absolute agony of that hardcore forging session visibly wrecks him. Finally gripping the blindingly radiant blade, he loudly declares his epic masterpiece complete. The system officially registers the 5-color flame blade. Instantly, a glowing holographic window flashes, confirming the weapon easily secured a crazy high-grade ranking, dropping everyone's jaws. Dead silence completely chokes the room as the crowd stares down the legendary artwork, entirely paralyzed by the impossible flex. Shattering the heavy tension, our guy casually invites the stunned examiners to check the weapon's busted system stats. Scanning those totally glitch-level numbers, the assistant literally screeches out loud, confirming the kid flawlessly cleared the trial. Taking a swift smack to the dome for his crazy fanboy screaming, the guy awkwardly apologizes, desperately reeling his composure back. The scene cuts to Professor Kim In-cheol's ridiculously high-end office. Locked in a tense stare-down, the professor throws out a sarcastic jab, questioning if this blade is actually submission-worthy. Keeping his guard entirely up, the blacksmith fires back a cold reply that the weapon barely passes. The veteran instantly catches his absolute perfectionism. Cutting the fluff, the old-timer drops a massive truth bomb. This academy cannot handle his talent, urging him to bail. Spilling the tea, he confesses that while Babel carries god-tier clout, their forging department has actually fallen off terribly. Annoyed by the harsh reality check, the young main character glares back bluntly, stating he already knows about their pathetic downfall. Flashing back to his tragic past life, he remembers perfectly well that Babel's forge goes completely bankrupt in exactly 8 years. Weighing his cosmic options, he knows deep down that Vulcan is destined to become the undisputed global king of blacksmithing. But suddenly, he completely trashes that timeline. Flashing a razor-sharp glare, he directly rejects the professor, claiming Vulcan won't rule. Overflowing with absolute giga-chad energy, the kid boldly declares Babel will reign supreme for one simple reason: he is joining them. Leaving the professor utterly speechless, the young prodigy doubles down, insisting the veteran's future forecast is pure garbage. Tapping his own chest with zero hesitation, he vows that Babel will conquer the entire world simply by riding his coattails. Testing this insane audacity, the professor dares him to conquer the entire college as number 1. The boy just smirks, locking it in. The veteran seriously asks if this cocky rookie even understands the brutal selection process for Babel's top freshmen. Flexing his total system mastery, our main character effortlessly breaks down the hardcore elimination exam that filters out the weaklings. He explains how the academy intentionally splits rookies into 3 main factions just to fuel the toxic rivalry. The battleground features the combat maniacs, the tactical support players, and the technical class, our blacksmith's exact drop zone. Inside those factions lie dozens of specialized divisions, spinning a chaotic web of absolute cutthroat survival. Bottom line, the top ranker is the absolute monster who crushes everyone else's dreams, officially crowned as the school's unrivaled genius. Dropping the academic facade, the old-timer locks eyes with the boy, speaking directly, as a hardened veteran of the forge. Pouring ice water on the hype, he insists that even if he completely dominates Babel, true endgame success belongs to Vulcan. The veteran swears on his life that defecting to the rival school is the ultimate safe play. Flashing a genuinely warm smile, our main character realizes this gruff teacher actually values his students' futures over his own ego. Shifting back to a dead serious glare, the kid coldly replies that a trash environment means absolutely nothing to god-tier talent. Radiating unstoppable aura, the prodigy promises Babel will instantly hit rank 1 upon his arrival. Smirking back, the professor respects the hustle. He laughs, claiming victory just stalks his every step. Gripping the veteran's hand, our main character smirks, clarifying it isn't blind ego, but admits the vibe totally suits him. Thrilled with the pact, the proctor locks in their deal, declaring the rookie his official protege. Their iron grip handshake permanently forges the duo's alliance. Boom, a glowing system prompt instantly violently flashes across our hero's vision, verifying a fresh level 1 connection with Professor Kim. Not wasting a single second, he triggers his hidden bond extraction ability, straight on his new mentor. Channeling that stolen aura, a blazing mystic crystal physically manifests right inside his palm, chilling safely in his dorm. The crafter intensely studies the radiant gem. Rolling the tiny fragment between his fingertips, he admits the purity is absolute fire, but groans about its pathetically microscopic scale. He breaks it down, detailing how this broken skill literally converts human connections into rare materials, completely unknown to this reality. The fatal catch, though, this relationship status is hopelessly stuck at a basic level 1, making the drop basically useless for any serious crafting. Glaring at his glowing status panel, he realizes his baseline stats are absolute garbage, stacked against Babel's elite veterans. Low-key annoyed, he owns his current trash tier power, but quickly reminds himself that literally rewinding time is the ultimate cheat code, so our main character decides sweating the small stuff is pointless. Keeping his cool today, he knows plenty of hours remain to completely obliterate that cursed demonic horde. Flashing back, nightmare visions of those grotesque fiends, consuming not just mankind but whole galaxies, violently resurface. The true architects of despair, those 6 abyssal lords, drove existence to the brink before his regression. To casually box with these apocalyptic nightmares, he vows to aggressively hoard forgotten gear and combat arts using his future knowledge. Hyped about his master strategy, he celebrates, securing that prestigious academy acceptance letter like an absolute boss. Locking onto his next target, he starts plotting his ultimate grind phase. Bam! A sharp system ping violently hijacks his entire mental monologue. Caught off guard by the digital chime, our crafter discovers his connection randomly ranked up, instantly unlocking a crazy new recording perk. Fast forward exactly 7 days. The legendary Babel Academy spectacularly dominates the horizon. Standing way outside his comfort zone, our hero rubs his neck, totally lost, practically convinced he took a massive wrong turn. Skipping the dramatic entrance, he successfully locates crafting bay number 3. Pushing past the cracked door, he smoothly drops a chill morning greeting to the crew inside. Instantly, he steps into a suffocatingly thick aura, staring down 2 stiff guys in tailored suits. Dripping with heavy sarcasm, a blonde dude slouched at the desk openly roasts the applicant for acting way too casual. Snapping completely, the guy aggressively introduces himself as vice principal. Michael Barmouth instantly torching our boy for making VIPs hold the line. Desperate to kill the tension, Professor Kim quickly jumps in, stating 10 solid minutes still remain before the sudden death trial kicks off. Boiling over, the suited blonde barks back that the clock means nothing, calling out the freshman's painfully arrogant swagger. Reading the room like a pro, our main character instantly clocks that the campus elites absolutely despise the smithing faction. Absorbing the toxic drama, he spots a blonde rival shooting pure daggers, with his eyes finally grasping exactly why his mentor banished him to this rival turf. Dripping with fake politeness, the rich kid claims meeting a dirty blacksmith is an honor, leaving our guy utterly clueless. Deeply thrown off, he mentally questions why this stupid room is packed to the brim, when he literally beat the buzzer. Click. The heavy door swings wide, and a sharp feminine voice demands to know if the squad is assembled. Lurking in the corner, the vice principal snarks that he fully bet the missing department boss was gonna ghost them. Frozen in pure terror, our guy instantly IDs the silhouette, feeling his entire soul practically leave his body. Radiating absolute boss energy, the crimson-haired woman aggressively slumps into a premium chair without giving a single rip. Flexing zero actual guilt, she casually drops her title as campus director Ryu Unha, tossing out a lazy apology for lagging. Practically short-circuiting, our hero screams internally, desperately questioning why this absolute menace is crashing his exam. Dark flashbacks from his previous timeline confirm the fiery elite ruled Babel in another era, yet he literally never predicted that this borderline psychopath used to run this entire division. Feared in the future as the apex-tier hunter weapon eater, she wields the freakish power to physically devour blades for permanent stat boosts. Before rewriting reality, these two were hardcore industry partners, constantly moving insane amounts of military hardware. In those dark days, the champion wore a hauntingly hollow expression, constantly begging forgiveness for munching his masterpieces, like a sleep paralysis demon. He recalls that suffocating aura, with freezing rain, washing over a completely shattered battlefield. Amidst that apocalyptic ruin, the Crimson Warrior looked utterly broken beneath the storm, while existence literally crumbled. Staring her down, now he feels an agonizing wave of regret and incoming devastation. Snap. Our main character violently blinks, forcefully yanking his consciousness right back into the stuffy testing facility. A booming shout from Professor Kim completely shatters his trance once and for all, cutting straight through the BS. The veteran announces the brutal trial mechanics, ordering the entire room to lock in and absorb every single deadly detail. The proctor lays down the law. This ultimate forging showdown lasts exactly 90 minutes. Within this ticking clock, both rivals must forge a masterpiece, complementing their previous sword trials. Igniting a blazing flame in his palm, the instructor strictly demands pure alchemical crafting methods. Gesturing toward the shadowy corner of the arena, the veteran points out the glittering material stash. With a sprawling buffet of raw power, both students can freely snatch whatever magical ores they desire. Raising the stakes, he declares the final judgment rests in the hands of Director Ryu, alongside the seriously irritating vice principal. Slicing through the tension, the old mentor bellows the ultimate command to start. Instantly, the arena's atmosphere ignites, with thick tension kicking off the brutal trial, destined to make or break their academy careers. Strapping on his gear, our hero mentally maps out the alchemical process. Staring down the mystical stones, he recalls the golden rule sinking uncorrupted mana, prevents volatile elemental magic from exploding. Suddenly, a totally obnoxious voice shatters the focused silence like freezing ice, making our main character snap his head around. Dripping with sheer arrogance, the snobby blonde rival mocks him, asking if staring intensely will magically extract mana, killing the cringe immediately. The vice principal barks his son's name with icy warning. Glaring daggers, the elder commands the brat to zip it and drop the trash talk mid-exam. Flashing a plastic grin, Hans pledges obedience, sparking a massive realization for our guy, hitting him like a truck. Mind totally blown, he realizes this spoiled antagonist shares blood with the head judge. Spotting their identical punchable faces, our hero chuckles, realizing the toxic apple did not fall far from the tree. Radiating unearned confidence, the wealthy brat smirks, convinced he mentally broke his opponent. Inside his delusional mind, this clash is a total joke, elite nobility, crushing an absolute zero. Gripping azure gems, the flexor boasts about his freakishly massive mana pool. Hoisting the glowing crystal, Hans completely visualizes his inevitable triumph. Across the arena, the corrupt vice principal spots the premium aquatic ores and secretly hypes up his prodigy. Frowning heavily, Instructor Kim cautions that aquatic energy clashes violently with scorching heat, making refinement incredibly brutal. Scoffing hard, the vice principal dismisses this as boomer logic, claiming modern alchemy changed everything. Clapping back, Kim argues different metals demand unique timing, betting it takes at least 30 minutes for progress. Bursting with ego, the corrupt elder shoots back that his golden boy synthesizes anything within that exact window. At the anvil, the rich kid aggressively channels the gems, triggering flawless magical frequency, locking down synthesis in 30 minutes flat. Shook by this crazy speed, the mentor admits Hans possesses sophomore-level talent. The puzzle pieces slam together, exposing the judge's slimy scheme. Boiling with silent rage, Kim realizes the rigged timer and specific materials were a total setup to guarantee his son's victory. 0% bothered, our main character scans the table, claiming the leftovers for his epic blueprint. Snatching, blazing crimson, and pale stones. He leaves the panel totally bewildered. Stunned, the top brass desperately analyze this wild material selection, chosen by our underdog. Smirking wickedly, the vice principal notes those fiery gems perfectly counter his son's oceanic crystals. Rattled by such insane boldness, the official wonders if this rookie is a hidden genius or just actively trolling, for the sake of chaos. Mentally popping champagne, the snob claims early victory, labeling our hero a massive clown. Cackling inwardly, the arrogant noble decides, crushing this trial requires zero effort whatsoever. Boom! A blinding supernova violently fractures the room's shadows, making the blonde's jaw physically drop in sheer confusion. Moving with lethal precision, our hero triggers his overpowered hidden system ability. Glowing holographic screens manifest, instantly locking the blazing Firelink armor onto his right limb. Searing hot aura violently engulfs his fist. Wielding a gauntlet of literal molten lava, the legendary crafter flexes his burning arm, ready to break reality. Panicking at the radiance, Hans screams it is just a flashy, pathetic illusion, completely ignoring the hater. Our guy supercharges his flames, spawning a raging firestorm directly inside his palm. Bathed in hellfire, he bends the crimson rocks, liquefying solid metal with terrifying dominance. Watching from the shadows, the shocked panel trembles at such savage crafting violence. Calling it pure suicide, the corrupt leader brands the kid a lunatic for slamming raw elements together, using unhinged barbaric energy. Barking a final threat, the suited official swears this reckless aura manipulation promises a catastrophic self-destruct sequence. Amidst the chaotic heatwave raging, fire tornadoes twist, as the terrifying power breaks every fundamental law, detonating a massive shockwave. Blinding radiance completely devours our crafter. Hans freezes in pure panic, terrified. His nemesis is about to nuke the entire academy. Blocking the blinding glare, the blonde screams, demanding to know how this insane firepower exists. As the chaotic smoke finally clears, a majestic scabbard forged from pure blazing flames hovers midair, right as the glowing system declares the crafting process fully complete. Witnessing the legendary stacked fire sheath manifest, the crimson-haired weapon devourer leaps from her seat, totally mind-blown by the impossible outcome. Completely paralyzed, the vice principal stutters, wildly refusing to accept that a mere kid successfully tamed those volatile ores. The glowing hologram confirms the epic truth: this scabbard hoards and supercharges flame mana while unlocking the devastating wildfire ability. Rooted to the floor, Han stammers in absolute disbelief, questioning how anyone could speedrun this complex synthesis so flawlessly. Spiraling into heavy denial, the wealthy brat screams that the elemental energy should have completely self-destructed. Staring down at his pathetic half-baked project, the elite student suddenly questions every single elite method he ever mastered. Sweating bullets, the vice principal shrieks to halt the test immediately, boldly branding our main character a filthy cheater. Completely unhinged, the toxic father erupts with a crackling lightning aura looming over the young smith to assert dominance. Ice cold, our main character merely stares at this clown show, muttering in pure confusion at the meltdown. With the epic vibe entirely ruined, the camera cuts straight to the sunlit forging courtyard later that same afternoon. Tuning back into reality, our main character endures the corrupted official's monologue, every single word dripping with fake sympathy. Wearing a twisted plastic smirk, the suit claims our hero could have easily snagged the Academy's top spot, if not for one glaring catastrophic issue. Pretending to be heartbroken, the corrupt elite sighs, dramatically acting like it absolutely wrecks him to enforce extreme penalties. Desperately defending his sketchy power trip, he gaslights the young prodigy, pinning the explosive disaster completely on his actions. Grinding his knuckles together, our hero glares hard, insanely frustrated over catching an automatic loss without throwing one punch. Hyped on his own corrupt script, the boss pitches scrapping the entire exam and rolling it back, faking deep concern for student safety. Disgusted by the cheap act, Professor Kim fires back that dumping the results is trash because the whole crisis sparked solely from hands failing. Slapping down the veteran teacher, the suited villain snaps back, accusing Kim of prioritizing flashy scores over the actual safety of the students. Moving in for the kill, the sketchy administrator starts spinning wild conspiracy theories to completely trash our boy's godly forging speed. Dripping with pure arrogance, he brags that the global resonance record sits at 5 minutes, making a rookie breaking it mathematically impossible. Barking loud and jabbing his finger, the elite demands to know if this freshman is a literal demon for triggering instant pure mana resonance. Triggered by this absolute clown behavior, our master smith drops the act loudly, dropping massive lore about true alchemical forging right then. As phantom blades hover in his mind, he reveals that the ancient method never destroys the stone, it actually awakens its sleeping soul. With absolute aura, the prodigy declares that tracking the core's deep roots and pulling raw soul from cold rock is the peak definition of real alchemy. Wrapping up his legendary flex, our main character confirms he did just that, and coldly warns that the entire crafting universe will inevitably embrace this brutal reality. Savage and unfazed, he refuses to explain himself to a screaming boomer, taking massive emotional damage from the kid's epic disrespect. The desperate principal scrambles to flip the narrative aggressively, branding the young legend as a dirty back alley cheater. Spitting venom, the snob argues that a guildless nobody, without elite bloodlines, could never forge a rare tier artifact without committing grand theft. Exhausted by this massive NPC energy, our godly smith simply shuts his eyes and silently wonders how such absolute garbage climbed the academy ranks, just to dial up the chaos. The crimson-haired girl's voice shatters the heavy tension ringing from the high desk, validating the insane cheating accusation. The chaotic chief agrees, calling the rookie's crafting speed absolutely unhinged and highly suspicious. Smelling blood, the corrupt principal jumps on the opening, demanding instant disqualification for this blatant fraud. Plot twist: the fiery girl leaps from the desk, gripping the rookie's fresh blazing scabbard, while flashing an incredibly unhinged grin. Totally lost, our hero watches this absolute menace creep dangerously close, her feral gaze locked completely on his glowing blade. Out of nowhere, the crazy judge drops her tough act and literally drools, pleading to take one tiny crunchy bite of his gear. Paralyzed by maximum cringe, both boomer villains stare in sheer horror, totally short-circuiting at this weird behavior. Ultimately, the tense showdown devolves into an absolute comedy show, flushing the scary judge's reputation straight down the toilet. Escaping that absolute fever dream, the camera cuts to the glowing city streets during golden hour. Strolling the block, our main character spaces out, incredibly thankful he survived that room of absolute psychopaths. Gripping his masterpiece, he flexes his stats, admitting the base structure is solid, but craves heavy upgrades. Chuckling under his breath, sweet nostalgia hits him hard. Pure venom twisted the vice principal's features, his ego absolutely shattered by that brutal humiliation. The grin died instantly. That corporate snake's name triggered a familiar nightmare. Gripping his aching skull, the MC fought through the heavy mental fog. He frantically dug through his past life's memories for Barmouth's identity. Suddenly, a grim, blood-stained flashback from the fallen Babel Academy violently crashed right into his waking consciousness, exposing the corrupt executive peddling defective gear that randomly detonated. Digging deeper into the trauma he remembered, the very hack blacksmith who permanently crippled Mad Dog was actually Barmouth. As this twisted truth struck, he realized this stuck-up academic was nothing but a complete fraud. Armed with this game-changing intel, our hero finally pinpointed the exact catalyst behind humanity's doomed timeline. His entire mission was taming those three beasts early to rewrite the apocalypse. But after spotting the true cancerous root, he theorized that blocking Hans's fatal mistake would keep the fiery berserker totally sane. Meanwhile, deep inside an ultra-luxurious faculty boardroom, the suffocating tension could cut glass. Utterly outraged by the sheer disrespect, rival department elites challenged the call, crowning a mere crafter as the undisputed valedictorian. Folding her arms, the crimson-haired director fiercely scowled, daring any coward in the room to challenge her absolute authority. Quaking in his designer shoes, a terrified bureaucrat desperately backpedaled, claiming they only offered gentle guidance, not total open rebellion. Lurking nearby, the slimy Barmouth flexed his seniority sharply, reminding the entire council about her rookie status as director. While grudgingly praising the kid's flawless blade, he aggressively demanded a strict policy audit. Spitting pure poison, the bitter veteran ruthlessly slammed the head director for blatantly ignoring the incredibly sloppy structural craftsmanship, plaguing the rookie's custom scabbard. Rubbing his chin, another academic admitted the boy possessed raw genius, but questioned his right to the supreme throne. Keeping her icy cool, the fiery director clapped back, revealing the artifact was merely 60% finished, proving his god-tier potential. Locking eyes with her enemy, she unleashed a deadly glare, mocking his pathetic inability to accept that mind-blowing masterpiece and swallow his pride. Boiling with rage, the vice principal violently smashed the desk, swearing to instantly resign if this delusional madness continued. Miles away from that pathetic corporate whining, the lore reveals the divine Tower of Heroes crashed down. Exactly 54 years ago. Retaliating instantly, the Black Abyss vomited an endless demonic ocean to slaughter all human life. To obliterate this monstrous tidal wave, the colossal Babel Academy was forcefully erected right in the treacherous Pacific waters. Spearheading the vanguard, the legendary ascended Emperor Ludwig Schubert hyped the rookies, swearing they would forge absolute myths. Inside this fortress, amidst deafening cheers, the Supreme Commander launched the fresh heroic bloodline straight into epic glory. Lost in the roaring mob, our MC intensely analyzed the mythic juggernaut ruling the school with supreme tyranny. Beneath that warm grandpa-like smile, the regressor completely understood this revered elder was actually a cold-blooded calculating demon. Gripping his hilt tightly, our hero inhaled, deeply bracing for the impending bloodbath. Up on the grand podium, the hype man roared that the highly anticipated rookie showcase was officially starting. Instantly, the absolute prodigies from every single rival faction marched into the heart of the colossal coliseum. Oozing pure confidence, our crafter silently smirked, craving to finally expose exactly why these arrogant rich kids acted untouchable during his doomed first timeline. Stepping onto the battlefield, he vibrated with adrenaline, eager to watch the explosive chaos and scan his prey. Observing from his prime spot, he finally grasped their bloated aristocratic egos after witnessing the mind-blowing budget of the stadium. Clutching the mic, the host whipped the screaming crowd into absolute frenzy, unveiling the first brutal crash test dummy. Out on the sun-baked dirt, a terrifying automaton golem Model 9 materialized, radiating metallic death. Sizing up the tin can, our genius recognized a slaughter machine, built exclusively for savage melee brawls. Exploding with hype, the host summoned the undisputed king of the brawler faction to kick off the bloody spectacle. Rocking a dead-serious glare, the golden-haired prodigy Jake Myers invaded the arena, radiating absolute boss energy. Staring down the mechanical titan, the stadium's explosive cheers suddenly flatlined into suffocating, breathless silence. Searching his regression files, our hero remembered this powerhouse as a Blade Clan heir who preferred crushing obstacles with bare knuckles alone. Cracking his heavily taped hands, the blonde striker smirked, whispering that playtime was officially over. Following the host's explosive countdown, the phantom bell rang, triggering an absolute blood-pumping massacre on the spot. Faster than lightning, the rookie blasted off, shattering the concrete beneath him as he rocketed directly at the steel behemoth. Defying gravity, he unleashed a devastating hurricane of flying strikes, forcing the heavily armored juggernaut to violently shudder. Flashing an unhinged grin, the brawler warned the metal scrap that the real nightmare was just beginning. Zero hesitation, the blonde kid launches a devastating strike, his fist radiating pure face, melting kinetic energy. The shockwave is absolutely filthy. That state-of-the-art golem armor instantly crushes inward like a discarded soda can. Our Blacksmith main character watches completely mind-blown. In his previous timeline, this absolute powerhouse died early as a total nobody. Launched across the arena, the obliterated mech proves this kid possesses monstrous glitch in the Matrix strength, defying every Babel standard. Cold sweat drips down his chin. Our protagonist literally cannot fathom how such a terrifying, overpowered beast rotted in trash tier rankings before. Following that brutal blitz, the blonde casually cracks his knuckles, wrapping up the showcase without dropping a single bead of sweat. Sparking and reduced to scrap metal, the mechanized giant stays buried in the dirt. It is game over. Treating it like a light stretch, the combat rookie slicks back, his hair flashing, the hyped audience a cocky, victorious grin. Absolutely rattled by that savage display, the arena host fumbles his words, struggling to process the absolute slaughter. Finally finding his lungs, the hyped master of ceremonies screams into the mic, praising Jake for deleting a C-tier threat in one blink. The massive coliseum literally erupts. Thousands of screaming students go completely feral, chanting the name of this undisputed combat god. Reading the room, our boy realizes Jake just dropped an insanely heavy, suffocating weight onto the next challenger. Slicing through the roaring hype, the host summons the #1 support class prodigy to somehow outshine that epic flex. Catching that name, our protagonist smirks. He knows crippling performance anxiety is the absolute last emotion this gloomy girl experiences. Thanks to his regression, he perfectly recalls Erika Inu standing as the legendary heir to the massive Japanese syndicate, representing one of the big three support families. However, her future timeline was straight up cursed and completely twisted. Swallowed whole by demonic forces, she was brutally hunted down by her own bloodline. Knowing her insanely tragic destiny, our Blacksmith instantly hard passes, deciding dodging this dark and blonde-haired walking red flag is his best survival strategy. Out of nowhere, her piercing ice-cold gaze locks directly onto him, leaving our guy totally bewildered by the sudden attention. Down on the cleared battlefield, the host hypes up a fresh combat drone boasting about its upgraded heavy-duty plating, way beefier than the previous scrap. Pumping maximum adrenaline into the stadium, the host screams into his gear, begging to see what insane sorcery this support rookie will unleash to dethrone Jake. Silently, the girl lifts a terrifying midnight dark cage. It leaks a suffocating pressure. Her left eye flares with a haunting cyan glow as she whispers a chilling order to her familiar. Instantly, an ethereal raven crafted from pure shadow phases through the iron, taking flight across the massive arena airspace. Like a homing missile of doom, the magical beast plummet strikes from the clouds, locked onto the titan of steel. Cringing hard at the basic play, our protagonist scoffs, thinking it is totally delusional for this girl to shatter reinforced steel with a scrawny pet. Detecting the incoming threat, the artificial intelligence goes full turtle mode, deploying a colossal high-density barrier. Running the numbers off the top of his head, our Blacksmith guarantees 0% probability that a fragile shadow bird breaks an absolute defense. But wait, the raven flares its wings, detonating into a blinding cosmic supernova, drowning the entire stage in abyssal power. Within a single microsecond, the apocalyptic shockwave ripples outward across the floor, completely vaporizing the indestructible alloy into literal floating dust. Ice, cold, and completely unfazed, the lethal shadow, Raven spirals back to perch on Erika, leaving behind absolutely nothing but mangled metal scrap. Losing their minds, the crowd goes absolutely feral. Deafening cheers erupt as they bow down to that god-tier flex. She just deleted a C-tier fortress without breaking a sweat. Even our usually arrogant hero drops his jaw straight to the floor, utterly humbled by that effortless one-shot. Before the stadium can even catch a breath, the hyped host screams again, dragging the top engineering prospect into the spotlight. Burning under the heavy stares of countless students and the suffocating glare of the Emperor himself, our boy walks up, realizing he must drop an absolute banger of a showcase, or risk becoming the Academy laughingstock. Noting the insane power levels, the Emperor smirks, praising this terrifyingly stacked freshman class. Chilling in the elite luxury lounge, the redhead scans the field with lethal boss energy, quietly judging her personal pawn. The tension is thick. Everyone is dying to see if an engineer can eclipse Erika. Stepping onto the scorched earth, firmly planted, our guy unsheathes his 5-color elemental sword, bringing the main event. The system interface flashes, confirming this masterpiece is incredibly rare. Forged entirely from compressed fire, spectators lose their minds, absolutely baffled that a rookie crafted such overpowered hardware. Yet up in the elite VIP lounge, some boomers complain the blade lacks the flashy aesthetic of the rival departments. Smelling blood in the water, the blonde vice principal smirks evilly, totally convinced the redhead is about to get brutally fired. Over the booming speakers, the host offers a basic D-tier dummy, but our absolute madman instantly rejects the lowball. Stone, cold, and fearless, our Blacksmith demands they roll out the hardcore B-tier Titan fully loaded with ultra-heavy plating. The announcer stutters, completely mind-blown. Why would this kid beg for an absolute death wish? His voice booms through the speakers. That armored beast tanks hits from B-rank heroes without a single scratch. Pure panic sets in. Is this freshman intentionally sabotaging his own showcase? It makes no sense. But our main character doesn't even flinch. He stands tall, demanding they unleash the monster immediately. Boom, the steel titan crashes into the arena, sending a massive shockwave of dust everywhere. The crowd goes dead silent. Just the sheer scale of that lethal machine radiates pure dread. Shaking off the shock, the host signals the match. Time to see what this kid's got. Totally lost, the announcer kicks off the trial, bracing himself for whatever absolute chaos unfolds next. Thousands of eyes lock onto the arena. One lone blacksmith staring down a colossal mechanical beast. A cocky smirk crosses his face. He is about to drop a show they will never forget. Gripping the hilt, he shifts his stance. Time to demonstrate the terrifying potential of a masterpiece. Instantly raging flames erupt from the steel, blazing with an intense, face-melting heat. Like a blazing meteor, he dashes forward, shattering the earth beneath him toward the steel giant. The vice principal just scoffs, crossing his arms. To him, it is just flashy, arrogant fireworks. The boomer thinks this low-mana kid cannot even scratch the armor. But our guy knows the truth. These 5-color flames are so chaotic, they could literally melt their own user. To cheat that weakness, he uses his custom scabbard as a core, swallowing the blade's catastrophic energy. With absolute precision, he channels the roaring crimson fire straight into the glowing scabbard. Suddenly, his eyes flash a lethal gold. The ultimate hidden art finally awakens. Overflowing with raw power, he unleashes the wildfire skill, summoning an apocalyptic storm of blazing fire. That move acts like a detonator, violently sparking an explosion of all that tightly compressed mana. Caught off guard, the machine is swallowed by a blinding 5-color inferno. Everything vaporizes in a heartbeat. Boom, a deafening pillar of fire rips through the sky, totally obliterating the unbreakable heavy armor. The host drops his mic entirely speechless against that display of raw god-tier destruction. The smoke clears, revealing a massive crater. That so-called invincible robot, melted down to liquid scrap. Staring at the absolute wreckage, our guy nervously scratches his neck. Okay, maybe he went a tiny bit overboard with that strike. Freaking out, the announcer screams for the emergency repair crew to rush the arena immediately. Amidst the rubble, the academy system pings. Freshman evaluation cleared with absolute highest honors. Cut to the fancy administrative office. He apologizes for his tardiness, claiming he was busy doing damage control. Looking super guilty, he admits wiping out the school's premier battleground was a huge mistake. Plot twist, the redhead takes the blame, apologizing and saying she should have stepped in sooner. Baffled, our guy blinks. Wasn't he summoned here to get absolutely roasted by the higher-ups? She instantly shakes her head. No way. The real reason for this little chat is way more exciting. Out of nowhere, this crazy girl lunges. She is literally drooling, totally freaking him out right on the sofa. Clueless and terrified, he scoots back. He is sweating bullets as her stomach lets out a monstrous growl. Clearing her throat awkwardly, the department head desperately tries to recover her cool professional vibe. Cutting to the chase, she drops a bombshell offer, 10 times the market price for his newly forged gear. She is practically begging on her knees to buy that sword and scabbard. She just wants to eat them. Jaw completely dropped, he stammers. Did she really just ask to snack on grade A military weapons? Ding, right then the system chimes in. A special affinity link with this metal-munching hero has been established. Obsessed with the gear, she swears that weapon set smells like an absolute 5-star gourmet meal. Deep down, he is genuinely stunned. He formed a bond with her before even tossing her a metallic snack. Flashing a sly smirk, he plays along. He is definitely milking this golden system opportunity for all it is worth. Locking in, he instantly fires up his affinity extraction skill, right in the middle of the room. Flash of blue light, the system alerts him a top-tier special affinity, successfully ripped from the crazy redhead. Checking the glowing screen, he scores a wicked passive skill. Mad Blood Steel, a crazy power that literally eats other metals. Holding the spiked crimson core, our guy just marvels at this insane jackpot. Snapping back to reality, the psycho girl keeps drooling and begging. But he drops a hard rejection before she can throw a total tantrum. A sharp knock shatters the silence. Professor Kim steps in, his expression dead serious. The seasoned veteran reveals. The Emperor demands the freshman's presence for the final ceremony right now. Excusing himself, the old master insists he must escort the kid. Earning a hesitant quick nod from the department head, our boy bids farewell to the starving redhead and trails his mentor down the grand hallway. Stranded alone, the woman groans in pure frustration, missing her chance to taste that flawless blazing blade. Miles away, the view cuts to the colossal central fortress, legendary as the Armored Heart of Babel Academy. Pacing through the lavish halls, the duo marches in dead silence toward their massive, looming destination. Kim drops a heavy warning. The top dog completely brushed off the arena's absolute destruction earlier, so absolute respect is mandatory. Halting before the beastly gates, the veteran stresses that the man inside exists on an unfathomable god-tier level. Flashing a chill smirk, our main character reassures the professor. He knows exactly who awaits him. As the massive doors groan open, the Emperor's booming voice shakes the entire hall, calling the blacksmith's name. Lounging on his throne, the absolute ruler. Ludwig pierces the boy with a stare that seemingly extracts the deepest sins from his past life's memories. Our kid recalls the grim truth. This supreme hero died in the future while battling to seal the demon gods. Bowing with utmost respect, the young teen acknowledges this suffocating aura. It genuinely belongs to the absolute apex predator. Speaking smoothly, the ancient emperor points out that those weapons crafted during the showcase were insanely fascinating. Hyping up his raw talent, the ruler calls the technique flawless, admitting he is dying to witness the kid's epic journey. Inhaling sharply, our main character braces his mind. The real lethal trial inside this literal lion's den is just starting. Cutting the fluff, the emperor declares the boy's insane potential earns him 2 exclusive top-tier rewards from the academy. With chilling calmness, the Supreme Master orders the kid to name his desires straight up, zero hesitation allowed. Our main character requests prizes geared toward boosting his mana core and unlocking his sealed past memories. Intrigued by this wild request, the leader simply raises his right hand, unleashing a blinding divine aura across the room. Out of nowhere, a radiant golden shield bursts from the shadows, slicing the air with a sharp metallic screech. Flashing on the system interface, the blacksmith spots 2 god-tier options, heavy black ink and legendary dream ivory. Hyped about the loot, he calculates that while the black ink is insanely rare, the dream ivory is a virtually impossible mythical relic to score. Flashing a wicked grin, the teen admits it will be a total grind to wield currently, but he already cooked up a genius backup plan. Watching from afar, Professor Kim whispers, asking if the fresh loot hit the mark. Tossing the ivory casually, our main character swears it is absolutely flawless for his upcoming god-tier forging sessions. Lurking in the corner, the Emperor studies the boy intensely, trying to read his chaotic mind. Completely captivated, the ruler mutters to himself. Handing 2 divine-grade treasures to one mere kid was literally unimaginable before today. Deep in his thoughts, the old powerhouse admits he unlocked the double blessing solely because the boy proved he could effortlessly tank the crushing pressure. To the veteran eye, the kid's stance screams not trembling rookie, but an ancient titan trapped inside a teenage shell. Instantly, the master's razor-sharp eyes lock back onto the exit doors, bracing for the prodigy's next play. Turning his back on the throne room, the blacksmith marches out, fully absorbing the master's terrifying strength. Smash cut to the academy's sun-drenched courtyard the very next morning. Swarmed by his desperate fanboys, Hans rejects a lunch offer, flexing that he already made plans with Howard. Shook by that heavy name, the mob wonders how this spoiled brat snagged a friendship with the absolute strongest third-year monster. Dripping with fake swagger, the blonde snake lies, claiming deep family ties, and that the elite upperclassman just wants to drop some golden wisdom. Suddenly, the door violently crashes open. The arrogant rich kid gulps down pure terror, recognizing the incoming threat. Ice cold and ruthless, our boy fires a death glare of absolute disgust straight at his crushed rival. Trembling with buried fury, the snobby kid practically suffocates under the immense weight of that literal killer stare. Striding past the pathetic clique, the blacksmith laughs internally, finally realizing Hans finally accepts his literal place as absolute garbage. But deep inside, the blonde violently clenches his fists, raging over getting utterly clowned by a nobody with zero background. Ignoring the drama, Professor Kim shatters the tension, barking at everyone to sit down immediately. Stepping firmly behind the podium, the old veteran verifies that every single student showed up for the real brutal first lesson. Dropping his voice, the master declares these freshman showcases won't be some weak basic school presentation. Right before their eyes, he slams down a massive crate packed with mysterious projection alloy, immediately launching into the hardcore breakdown. The seasoned master drops a heavy warning. This legendary ore violently devours the user's mana, materializing pure power from nothingness. Proving his point, the professor flexes a single drop of aura. A colossal magic spear obliterates the floor, instantly fracturing the ceiling. Jaw unhinged, our main character finally grasps reality. This geezer is undeniably one of the top 100 living legends. Yet our blacksmith sees right through the flex. That mind-bending ability is not Professor Kim's raw strength, but the alloy's innate trait. Continuing the lecture, the veteran explains the catch. This mystical ore mirrors the user's deepest soul, forging weapons completely unique to their essence. Thanks to this hyper-reactive nature, the metal absolutely sucks for crafting basic, mass-produced gear. Wrapping up his epic monologue, the master reveals the true name of these spontaneous manifestations, avatars of the soul. Dropping the ultimate challenge, the professor commands every single freshman to awaken their own personal avatar. These masterpieces will dominate the main hall for one solid week. Sweating nervously, the rookies desperately pump their mana. Panicking over an ore worth millions per chunk, Hans suddenly screams out, manifesting a blindingly flashy rapier in mere seconds. The weapon screams massive aura, but zero actual depth. Disgusted by these tryhards, our boy realizes these extras possess absolutely zero impressive talent. Lurking in the shadows, the veteran finally barks the kid's name, signaling the ultimate grand finale of this showcase. Gripping the raw metal, our blacksmith floods it with his blazing fire essence. He refuses to hold back his monstrous potential. Instantly chaotic crimson flames detonate from the rock, spiraling into an absolutely unhinged, terrifying fire tornado. Thirsting for absolute dominance, the boy smirks internally. If he steps onto the battlefield, he might as well totally obliterate the competition. Boom. A colossal shockwave of raw aura annihilates the room's silence, violently shaking the entire academy roof. Miles away from the workshop, hyped-up upperclassmen violently swarm the main hall to witness the brand-new Avatar showcase. Front and center, the mob immediately spots the rookie's terrifying greatsword. Whispers erupt, declaring this freshman an absolute freak of nature. Utterly shell-shocked, the veterans confess this sheer pressure is completely absurd for a mere newbie. The glowing plaque drops a bombshell. During his insane forging process, 19 surrounding projection alloys were violently devoured by his vortex. Seething with toxic jealousy, some random extra tries to cope, claiming the rookie only forged a behemoth because he hijacked extra ores. Suddenly, the top-tier support rookie Erica brutally shuts down the yapping. She coldly reveals the horrifying actual truth. Beside her, the legendary combat prodigy, Jake Myers, silently nods, his eyes firmly shut. To these two Academy Titans, the terrifying reality was that even 20 fused alloys could barely contain the blacksmith's apocalyptic power. Smashing back in time, the scene reveals our main character pulverizing the glowing steel with absolute savagery. Eyes glowing with madness, the boy rains down flawlessly calculated strikes, detonating a blinding storm of golden sparks. Utterly mesmerized, Professor Kim tracks the forging rhythm, absolutely paralyzed by the kid's godly, machine-like precision. Analyzing the terrifying data, the master realizes the rookie hammered that steel without a single 0.1 second error. Completely speechless, the veteran skips the boy's presentation entirely. He literally possesses nothing to teach this walking cheat code. The master finally ends the brutal session, leaving the exhausted students gasping in pure relief. Meanwhile, our intense blacksmith stays glued to his station, completely locked deep in the zone. Completely deaf to the dismissal bell, he relentlessly continues his psychotic symphony of crushing hammer blows. Muscles screaming in agony, the boy finally drops his heavy hammer. He coldly glares at the graveyard of shattered blades. Out of nowhere, the professor's creepy assistant slithers from the shadows. Eyes glowing, he questions if the kid plans to vaporize everything again. Jolting backward, the blacksmith quickly greets the smug monitor, desperately masking his sudden spiking anxiety. Cutting the small talk, the assistant demands they hand over at least one intact weapon to the greedy sales department. He bluntly orders the rookie to stop obliterating inventory. Baffled, our main character questions how the hell students even fund their insane crafting budgets. Dodging the question entirely, the arrogant assistant heavily implies the boy's actual struggle. Is his body failing or his mana? Flashing a self-deprecating smirk, the kid admits the brutal truth. Right now, his pathetic physical vessel is hard-capping his god-tier technique. Gasping for breath, the young prodigy slumps over. He simply lacks the raw stamina to survive the hellish temperatures of that cursed stone. Zero sympathy in his voice. The monitor coldly hints that if raw forging is failing, he desperately needs some external power-ups. A light bulb shatters in the blacksmith's mind. Injecting magic buffs directly into his muscles would rapidly outpace any basic physical grinding. Chuckling at his own stupidity, he remembers completely dodging support spells in his past life. That stubborn pride is why this hilariously obvious cheat code completely slipped his mind. Ready to violently exploit the system, he instantly ignites his energy aura. Boom. The crushing pressure immediately vanishes into thin air. Tossing a quick thanks for the pointer, our guy gears up to smash some more steel, while the assistant swivels around looking completely over it. Stopping dead in his tracks, the stuck-up student fires off one last savage critique. He barks at our MC to drop the brute force and fix his form. Across the room, the supervisor snaps that he is totally bleeding mana. He demands the kid throttle his output down to 10%, channeling every drop into the absolute dead center of the mallet. Catching the drift, our iron-forging MC nods, agreeing that mastering the mechanics is the ultimate play here, and calmly walks away. The supervisor just stands there frozen, totally glitching out that a bottom-tier rookie had the nerve to cut him off. The massive anvil falls silent, signaling the wrap-up of another violently exhausting grind session for our boy. Zooming out, Babel Academy's twisted curriculum heavily pushes self-directed grinding, greenlighting students to poach classes from rival factions. But reading the fine print, our MC knows he has to ace his core requirements first. Striking out 3 times means getting kicked to the curb. The intercom blares as the transit rolls into the spellcasting sector, a brutal reminder that every student here carves out their own survival path. Hopping off the carriage, our lead bumps right into Erica, who is currently boxed in by a squad of desperately flexing upper-tier snobs. One beefy senior folds, his arms barking at the rookie to get lost and clear the path. Wearing a face of absolute zero cares, our guy claps back that the clowns should be the ones stepping aside. Ignoring their trash talk, the Smith just bulldozes through, radiating a suffocating pressure that has the background characters flinching in pure panic. Trailing his shadow, the gothic chick matches his pace bluntly, demanding to know his next destination. Glancing over his shoulder, the dude drops a casual flex, saying he is hitting up the magic faculty to bag a side hustle. Triggered by the disrespect, the seniors double down on their cringe, trying to lure the high-profile rookie into a personal campus tour. Refusing to take a hint, the loudmouth dangles an exclusive VIP bash, aggressively ordering our protagonist to take a hike. Flashing a lethal glare, Erica drops a chilling rejection instantly, crushing the older student's toxic riz into dust. Finally, ditching the losers, the dark-haired girl presses her peer on what specific magical talent he is actually hunting for. Skipping the small talk, he admits he is chasing enhancement spells to push his physical stats beyond their mortal limits. Catching the flaw, she flags that bodily-boosting magic violently clashes with the delicate art of weapon crafting. Processing this hard truth, our hero instantly pivots his game plan, probing her about impenetrable defensive shield arts. All business, the edgy girl whips out a premium letter, slapping down a lockdown hex right there to physically show off the concept. As pure energy flares up, glowing ethereal links wrap the parchment, flexing her absolute dominance over high-tier warding. Tossing him the enchanted document, she dares the hammer-wielding freak to shred it, using nothing but his raw grip strength. Yanking with terrifying force, our guy quickly clocks that the hex did not actually upgrade the structural integrity of the material. Instead, his battle IQ realizes the magic leaves the base stats alone, but instantly fossilizes the second it takes a kinetic hit. Validating his genius read, she notes that manipulating energy this smoothly demands one-on-one tutoring with an absolute master. Identifying her own bloodline signature in the shield architecture, she throws him a lifeline, offering to hook him up with an elite insider. But instead of taking the easy carry, our MC hones his energy right into the very core of the warded emblem. Like cracking a safe, the prodigy mentally reverse engineers the entire shielding matrix purely by sensing the pulse of its aura. In less than a heartbeat, the legendary ward crumbles like dollar store glass, leaving the girl completely shook by the instantaneous bypass. Flashing a wicked grin, our crafter drops a quick thanks for the free tutorial, confirming these shields are going to be crazy overpowered. Pivoting on his heel, he declares he is registering immediately, tossing a sarcastic jab for her to go grab lunch with her obsessed simps. Right on cue, the absolute beta upperclassmen scurry over, pathetically checking if the star rookie is doing all right. Down in the dirt, the shattered parchment exposes an ultra-rare crest, exposing that the paper was actually an exclusive golden ticket. Low-key fuming, she lasers her eyes at the shredded remains, muttering that the high society pass was supposed to be his free loot. Cut to our lone wolf staring down the impossibly massive magical arts stronghold staircase. Strolling across the quad, he catches random NPCs, spreading wild rumors about Erica's love life, making him just shake his head and smirk. He mentally roasts the mob for their obsession with fabricating drama, while being totally clueless about the actual facts. Locked in on his objective, he recalls that unlocking this class demands surviving a brutal field exam out in the wild first. Pulling up to the drop zone, our heavy hitter confronts an overgrown death forest, only to spot the exact same gothic girl waiting around. A few steps away, some random extra rages at the sky, violently complaining about the hidden trial entrance. Scanning the treacherous woods, our protagonist clocks that the Academy is forcing a goofy scavenger hunt from minute one, cringing at the sloppy game design. He steps into the ominous woods, eager to speedrun this absolute joke of an exam. Instantly, his sneaker collides with a colossal, unseen barricade buried in the earth. Without breaking a sweat, the magic explodes into glowing shards, exposing a secret dimension lurking behind the mirage. The proctor's jaws hit the floor, stammering out that the rookie just cleared Phase 1. Completely baffled by his own blink-and-you-miss-it win, our main character mutters, wondering if that was seriously the whole trial. Meanwhile, inside a lavish VIP lounge, the barrier magic professor chuckles about the legendary support rookie taking his class. Right next to the veteran mage, an assistant validates the hype passing over a smartphone, live streaming the swarming woods, glaring at the packed display. The blonde instructor groans that applications skyrocketed 3 times over just chasing her clout. To weed out the deadweight, the old master confesses he rigged this year's exam with a nightmare maze. A creepy grin flashes from a red-haired figure in his flashbacks as the professor remembers. A shady favor for a massive VIP. The veteran explains this maze isn't some basic monoshield. It is a vicious snare designed to crush your actual soul. Watching massive serpents writhe on screen, he swears the weaklings will rot in the abyss until they rage quit. Suddenly, the instructor's smug face drops, seeing our blacksmith utterly obliterate the mirage, like it was cheap glass. Scrubbing the replay, the veteran verifies the kid soloed the whole thing. 0 cheat codes from the clan's princess. Mind utterly blown, the professor confesses that ripping apart the maze, on pure gut feeling, is god-tier insanity. Back in the dirt, the proctor barks, alerting the surviving squad that Stage 1 is history. Hyped out of his mind, a crimson-haired senior struts up sporting a totally unhinged grin, calling dibs on round 2. Background extras gossip that this is the ultimate flex to rizz up the brooding queen and snatch her heart. Ignoring the clout chasers, the proctor gestures toward a colossal mana web, dropping the quest. Dismantle the grid without snapping its energy pulse. Spitting the rules rapid fire, the judge gives the senior the green light, hyping that raw speed equals a top-tier rank. Slapping his palms on the trap, the senior spots the spectral arachnid, infinitely weaving new threads unless suppressed. Sweating bullets, the dude tries to quarantine the mana core, using basic academy logic, but instantly feels his own aura tanking. Completely cornered, he pivots his strategy, opting to blitz the entire grid before his tank hits 0. Flexing pure muscle, the guy demolishes the spell, crashing down, gasping as the judge locks his run at 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Despite catching heat for his trash mechanics, the senior stands up, smirking, fully convinced his speedrun was legendary. Immediately following, a horde of fodder applicants bomb the exact same trial completely. 0 traps, disarmed, 0 patience, left. The proctor glares at the rejects and instantly banishes the entire squad, straight to the beginner tier. As the roster runs dry, Erika Inu finally steps up, her suffocating pressure muting the entire woods. Ice cold and focused, the judge cues the Japanese syndicate heiress to back up her god-tier hype. In a literal microsecond, she detonates a savage flash of energy, vaporizing the web into absolute ash. Mind broken by the flex, the rookies scream, demanding how she wiped the whole formula with 0 sweat. Flipping her hair flawlessly, the support goddess glares daggers, cementing her reign as the Academy's walking myth. Checking the timer, the monitor declares a terrifying 22 seconds, yet nitpicks that the textbook method might have been mildly quicker. Wrapping up the showdown, the evaluator peers over his notes and summons our monster Blacksmith to the gauntlet. Locked onto the magical trap, our hero sees literally 0 threat at first glance. Getting closer, he mumbles in pure confusion, scanning the arcane blueprint. Triggered by his lagging pace, the mob roasts him, shouting if the rookie missed the starting gun. Completely zoned in, the blacksmith detects this shield shares the exact aura of dense titanic iron. In the realm of crafting lore, smelting this specific metal demands flawless harmony of every active element. Far off, the judge rubs his temples, totally clueless. What insane stunt the rookie is plotting by going completely still. Snapping the chatter, Erika commands the crowd to shut it and let the master cook. Hooked by the tension, the proctor observes the brewing storm silently. A completely unhinged idea sparking, our boy reaches out, injecting pure blaze mana straight into the hex. Instantly, a sinister crimson inferno erupts, incinerating the core arachnid, while the blaze swallows the entire mirage. The onlookers recoil in pure terror. Slapping the earth, our boy announces his absolute masterpiece is finished. Flashing a triumphant smirk, he flexes his groundbreaking speedrun tactic for purifying dense magic ore. Utterly paralyzed by this outcome, the teaching assistant pauses the timer, his reality completely shattered. Voice quivering, the veteran stammers out the seemingly average record of 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Brushing off the clock, the judge realizes that pathetic speed is irrelevant. Why? Because next round, this monster will obliterate that ward in mere seconds. Ultimately, this prodigy didn't merely break the trap. He engineered a flawless counter curse that entirely erased the host spell. Quaking with dread, the senior pictures the catastrophic gear this crafter could forge by fusing raw mana with hardcore metalworking. Flashing forward to tomorrow, the interface projects the freshman's formal petition for a mid-tier kiln and hero-class loot. Inside the faculty room, an aide scrutinizes the glowing screen. He calculates how many experts might wage war to oversee this crafting session. Suddenly, his mobile completely glitches out. The device crashes under an avalanche of alerts from seniors brawling for the gig. Yet amidst this chaos, the aide realizes those vice principal lapdogs stayed totally silent. That silence confirms their faction's morale is completely ruined, following Hans's brutal downfall. Prepping to draft a lucky overseer, the dude gets abruptly halted by a highly classified ping from top brass. The digital text reveals the absolute unthinkable. The department chief herself plans to personally micromanage this rookie's smithing phase. Meanwhile, at the forge, our main character catches a recognizable voice echoing from the entrance. Stunned by her arrival, he mentions her packed schedule, but the crimson-haired boss claims she strictly needs to judge his talents firsthand. Confronting this ravenous superior, our prodigy vows to go all out. He locks his zone onto the anvil. Gripping the massive dark ore, he initiates Phase 1 of the intense purification ritual. Academic lore states the Dark Veil technique remains the most ruthlessly unhinged tactic for dominating this abnormal resource. Realistically, this operation demands sealing the rock inside a void of pitch-black isolation, rejecting every single photon. Under these conditions, the mineral liquefies. The crafter must purge every toxic flaw using unfiltered aura, skyrocketing the artifact's true potential. Conceptually simple, but our boy understands this essentially mirrors rearranging sheer physical matter on a microscopic atomic scale. Operating with surgical precision, he shrinks the ore down to a mere quarter, perfectly preserving the alloy's deadly combat efficiency. Transitioning into Phase 2, the freshman conjures a blazing crimson blaze, engulfing the entire laboratory in downright demonic temperatures. Soaked in perspiration, our main character pumps his raw vitality straight into the blaze, desperately anchoring the volatile chain reaction. Channeling his aura through the inferno, he extracts nothing but flawless embers right out from the core of that mystic blaze. Quickly, the turbulent power balances out, forming the legendary Gordian Inferno, locking in the spell's absolute thermal peak. Maintaining his brutal tempo, he hits Phase 3, smashing an emerald flame-wrapped mallet against the dark rock, without any mercy. From her VIP vantage point, the scarlet-haired chief stares completely awestruck, recognizing the agonizing torture this kid is surviving just to sustain those flames. Defying his own crumbling stamina, this absolute beast keeps striking the mineral with relentless wrath beneath that radiant green glow. Hours vaporize into the background. The campus heavens slowly shift their hues, welcoming the encroaching darkness of nightfall. Following 4 continuous hours of savage forging, the exhausted rookie finally drops his massive tool onto the workstation. Fully gorged on thermal energy, the shadowy rock settles into a polished form, aggressively mutating its core elemental traits. Exhaling a massive breath of relief, he verifies the mystic turbulence inside the mineral has entirely flatlined. Wasting 0 seconds, the youth tosses the refined ore straight into the compact kiln, initiating the ultimate liquefaction stage. Scrutinizing the pitch-black sludge oozing into the cast, the crimson-haired chief questions his weird pivot away from freeform smithing. She fears that shadow will corrupt his spellcraft. Absolutely vibrating with hype, she inches toward the table, desperate to decode this kid's kamikaze strategy for the final 4th act. Our hero flashes an unhinged grin, making the master realize his insane gamble. He's weaponizing the anti-ward equation to carve aura veins directly into the steel. Delivering the finishing strikes, he obliterates the casting shell entirely, exposing the breathtaking artifact concealed at its very heart. Right then, the system blasted. Forging that dark arachnid relic triggers a system alert, instantly blessing our boy with the Shadow Spirit thread ability. This rare-tier treasure constantly devours and hoards his personal magical energy like a sponge. Admiring his masterpiece, our main character totally hypes up the flawless execution of his insane blueprint. Boom! The crimson-haired girl's violently rumbling stomach shatters the hype, echoing wildly across the entire forge. Pin-drop silence falls. They just lock eyes as absolute sheer cringe skyrockets through the damn roof. Scrambling to salvage her pride, the warrior coughs awkwardly, playing off that beastly rumble as some random acoustic metal echo. Inspecting his gear, the crafter realizes its base stats are pretty trash. However, he plans to exploit a wild synergy combo to completely break upcoming battles. Pitying her starving state, he literally hands over scrap dark minerals just to feed her appetite. 0 hesitation. The maniac ignites her inner draconic core, conjuring scorching crimson fire inside her jaws to devour the searing rock. Crunching pure steel, the powerhouse literally chews the boulder, chillingly dropping a review that this crunchy treat actually slaps. Dropping the weirdest food review ever, she confidently claims the dark gem tastes exactly like crispy deep-fried tempura crust. Watching her munch, the teenager gets hardcore flashbacks of struggling to satisfy this warrior's absolutely unhinged appetite back then. Now that she is fed, our protagonist figures boosting their friendship stat is easy mode, politely accepting her weird culinary praise. Meanwhile, the gluttonous fighter literally drools, aggressively eyeing the freshly crafted premium blades resting across the room. Pushing her luck, she deadass demands when he will auction off that radiant blade and blazing scabbard so she can inhale them for dessert. Standing his ground, the crafter brutally crushes her dreams, declaring his inventory is strictly off-limits. She instantly suspects a cash issue. Shutting that down, our guy clarifies these specific arms are mandatory for his upcoming monster hunting course. Teasingly calling starvation the ultimate seasoning, he tosses her a lifeline. He swears she gets first dibs the absolute second he crafts some useless junk. Instantly, the fiery girl flashes a massive, triumphant grin, totally hyped about their new pact. The champion questions if the grind is over, getting a wildly breathless confirmation from the totally drained rookie. Wrapping things up, she mentions the janitors will handle the mess, saving the 0 stamina our hero has left. Attempting a single step, the maker's knees instantly buckle, sending his exhausted frame crashing toward the cold concrete. Moving at godlike speed, the warrior dashes and snatches him mid-air before he faceplants, Panicking slightly, she frantically checks his damn pulse. Blushing hardcore, he confesses his entire mana and endurance gauge hit 0 during crafting. Claiming repayment for the tasty rock, she declares a forced escort back to his room, suddenly dropping a random question about acrophobia. 0 reaction time allowed. The powerhouse scoops him up in a totally embarrassing bridal carry, leaving our dude absolutely stunned and incredibly flustered. Launching like a rocket, she violently shatters the glass, soaring across the campus skyline, while riding massive blasts of crimson fire. Blown away by this thrust, the wild girl figures out that dark mineral packed an absolutely insane buff. Flashing a knowing grin, our protagonist realizes the timeline butterfly effect is hitting seriously hard right now. Gliding effortlessly over the school grounds, the blazing warrior casually drops the exhausted crafter right at his residency doorstep. Cut to the shadows. That depressing loner Erica stands frozen outside his complex, gripping a ripped party pass tightly. On the campus forums, trolls are actively leaking viral snapshots of the tragic first year camping his door for literally over 3 hours. Comment sections are imploding with pure jealousy, viciously roasting our guy for accidentally ghosting such top-tier visual material. Out of nowhere, the admins nuke the entire thread, leaving our dude completely baffled. Glaring at his glowing display, he totally fails to decode the digital drama. Brushing off the toxic internet noise, the teen secures his lecture seat, locking all his mental focus onto his personal survival grind. Up front, the massive instructor Rick Rosemiles announces his name, instantly kickstarting the hardcore weaponry mechanics syllabus. This absolute unit orders everyone outside, brutally threatening the slowest student with a hellish 20-lap penalty sprint. Struck by sheer terror, the entire freshman squad scrambles frantically, terrified of getting wrecked on day 1. Utterly bamboozled, our protagonist curses. This class was heavily advertised as pure book smarts, not physical torture. Swept up, he just sprints to survive. Amidst the absolute dust cloud on the field, weaklings are literally choking for oxygen, desperately fighting through this psychotic initial routine. Following 20 torturous rounds, 50% of the roster instantly faceplants into the dirt, entirely out of juice. Gasping violently, the crafter agonizingly realizes his current body possesses absolutely garbage-tier endurance levels. Clutching his shaking knees, he desperately gulps down air, questioning if last night's brutal midnight smithing session permanently doomed him. That just fueled the fire. Cutting through the relentless complaining, the instructor sharply claps his hands, instantly demanding absolute silence from the drained academy kids. With a dead serious tone, the veteran reveals the brutal truth. Their textbook theories shifted to actual combat thanks to a recent, bloody string of fire sword hunter assassinations. He drops a massive bombshell. These absolute psychopaths are specifically hunting down top-tier blacksmiths, the exact creators forging those high-grade, blazing weapons. Diving deep into his past life memories, our main character vividly recalls those exact, terrifying massacres. He completely agrees. Survival absolutely comes first. Wrapping up his grim speech, the scarred veteran strictly warns that just knowing how to forge gear won't save them. They desperately need pure, raw power to stay alive. Shifting the intense vibe, the teacher sharply orders the rookies to grab their gear. Meanwhile, our guy stretches his aching frame. Refusing to look weak, the crafter locks in, totally dead set on pushing his physical limits. He blasts off into another intense dash. Mid-sprint, he finally experiences the insane, game-changing power of his freshly crafted, pitch-black artifact. A glowing blue interface pops up. The crushing gravity ability proves this absolute masterpiece, literally transforms raw mana into agonizing physical resistance for hardcore training. As that brutal pressure shreds his muscle fibers, our main character watches his base stats instantly skyrocket by a massive 5 points. Out of nowhere, the instructor's booming voice shatters his rhythm. He orders the sweating rookie to halt and step right into the heart of the sparring ring. Flipping the system to his absolute favor, the young prodigy toggles off the crushing pressure in a split second, launching into a sick reverse aerial. He sticks the landing with flawless, cinematic style. Visibly shocked by that explosive agility, the seasoned master openly hypes up the newcomer's insane physical conditioning. He totally confesses he expected some frail crafting geek awkwardly gripping a blade. Smirking, the grizzled teacher challenges the crafter to show off some basic strikes. Time for a brutal skill check. Clenching the hilt with iron-tight fingers, our boy internally curses his current frustrating situation. He knows this massive gravity band will entirely ruin his flawless footwork. Then, with zero hesitation, the massive teacher instantly closes the gap with a blinding thrust. A deadly pop quiz for the newbie's instincts. Driven by pure, battle-hardened muscle memory, the student snaps his weapon skyward. He deflects the vicious impact flawlessly, instantly leaving the veteran absolutely stunned by his perfect guard. Up in the bleachers, the peanut gallery starts whispering. They foolishly assume his counter dragged because of his exhausting cardio session. But deep down, the teacher's pupils shrink in absolute, pure shock. He realizes this so-called rookie is currently displaying the flawless, blood-soaked mastery of a seasoned warlord, desperate to protect his own bruised ego. The veteran awkwardly forces a sloppy retaliation strike, loudly claiming the kid's footwork is just way too reckless and unpolished. Pulling a dirty rotational trick, the teacher knocks the blade straight from the rookie's grip, launching steel into the dirt and instantly calling the match. Scraping his heavy boots across the dusty arena, our guy stabilizes his chaotic posture, mentally breaking down every single micro-movement he just made. Trying to look totally unfazed, the massive instructor drops his wooden blade, locking his intense gaze squarely onto the mysterious academy kid. But a spark of pure respect flashes in his pupils. Reading the room, our main character suddenly realizes the towering veteran was actually terrified, completely spooked by a mere crafting major's aura. His burning curiosity taking over, the burly teacher demands to know what absolute beast trained him, who forged him into such a lethal weapon. Desperately shielding his time-traveling secrets, the young prodigy instantly drops a ridiculously lame cover story. He claims he literally just copied viral hero clips online, but inside his mind, he flashes back to a legendary, trash-talking vagabond swordsman, a master who traded lethal combat secrets for cheap booze. In that previous timeline, our guy funded this intense tutoring by promising endless, top-tier custom gear, all for that hopeless gambling junkie. Snapping back to reality, the current teacher just stares blankly, not buying that garbage internet excuse for a single heartbeat. Thirsty to refine this hidden gem, the veteran enthusiastically hands over a VIP recommendation pass for an insanely elite, high-level physical conditioning course. Gripping that golden ticket, our hero bows in gratitude, his mind already locking on to the absolute brutal challenges waiting in that brand new facility. Time to fix his garbage stamina gauge forever. Stepping into the massive combat pavilion, the camera pans to a scruffy elder draped in traditional garbs. He's absolutely obliterating some arrogant punk. The second his eyes lock onto this raging grandpa, our guy's jaw drops, realizing it's the legendary blade-shattering champion himself, the one and only Ma Guangsu. Piecing the chaotic puzzle together, our boy realizes his absolute nightmare of a freeloader client from his previous existence is now a terrifyingly strict instructor at this elite academy. Dusting off his knuckles, the bearded beast sharply demands to know who just crashed his dojo. Holding up his glowing referral, our crafter states his name. Right on cue, some snobby, blonde-haired upperclassman slides in, whispering toxic gossip to the veteran, snitching that this newcomer is literally the undisputed genius of the crafting sector. But honestly, this hardcore master couldn't care less about fancy academic titles. Scanning the rookie's build from head to toe like a hawk, the eccentric elder coldly smirks, blatantly calling him hopelessly fragile. Flashing a wickedly arrogant grin, the master mocks him, asking if the toolmaker is truly that desperate to learn his dark arts. Gesturing toward the mat, he drops a brutal ultimatum, a sudden death cage match against the blonde lackey. Survive, and the rookie officially earns his spot in this hellish class. The absolute rule? One solid, devastating strike ends it all. Smug as ever, the golden-haired rival drops into a hyper-aggressive, flawless fighting posture. The elder roars to begin. The arena erupts, but shockingly, our main character just goes entirely limp, completely dropping his guard in a chillingly calm stance. Analyzing the deadly standoff, the master's eyes widen. He instantly recognizes the kid is executing an insanely high-tier, absolute muscle relaxation art. Totally blinded by arrogance, the blonde fool thinks it's a fatal opening. He explodes forward with maximum velocity, aiming a vicious claw straight for our boy's heart. Scowling in pure disgust, the professor mutters how much he despises arrogant punks relying on cheap mind games. Moving like absolute fluid water, our blacksmith slips right beneath his attacker's strike, leaving the dude grabbing pure air. Hijacking the enemy's own kinetic energy, our boy pivots flawlessly, manifesting right behind the blondie in a literal flash. One surgical shove shatters the senior's balance, sending utter panic through his widened eyes. Blindsided by that phantom kinetic force, the blonde upperclassman eats absolute dirt, face planting hard into the wooden dojo floor. Ending this duel in one literal second, a glowing aura on his wrist exposes his secret weapon. He triggered the black bracelet. At the very last microsecond, instantly multiplying his gravitational pull, the senior ragdolls across the room, slamming the wall in total, humiliating defeat. Flashing a completely savage smirk, our main character sarcastically asks if his speed was a little too overwhelming to handle. Locking deadpan eyes with the instructor, our boy immediately cashes in their wager, demanding his rightful seat in martial arts. Zero tolerance for useless spectators, the grumpy veteran instantly banishes the background extras, barking at everyone to evacuate his dojo. Dripping with absolute swagger, Our blacksmith pours salt on the wound, offering to personally tutor the master's pathetic little pupil. Sweating over this massive loss of face, the master realizes a crafting freshman utterly wrecking his combat prodigy is about to ignite insane academy rumors. Matching that chaotic energy, our boy casually notes the blondie desperately needs hardcore training to prevent future public humiliation. Out of nowhere, the crushed senior springs up with literally sparkling eyes, gratefully bowing for the beatdown, treating that absolute violation like profound enlightenment. Completely mortified by his own student's massive brain rot, the professor intensely facepalms, formally securing the freshman's roster spot, just to make him leave. Cutting the filler, our main character isolates the veteran, teasing a highly classified secret. Relocating to the private training grounds, the battle-hardened instructor commands the kid to unleash this so-called hidden technique immediately. Without a single frame of warning, our blacksmith violently dashes forward, shattering the stone pavement with completely lethal velocity. Legitimately jump-scared, the veteran instinctually raises a bare palm, parrying that bone-crushing strike through sheer battle-hardened reflexes. With the heavy blade deadlocked in midair, our boy openly confesses this strike relies entirely on blinding shock value. Bluntly analytical, the ancient master actually respects the deadly concept, yet brutally roasts the insanely garbage execution. Flexing his supreme authority, the old legend declares that if any instructor taught him such pure trash, he would personally snap their limbs. Completely unbothered, our hero vows to forge a physical vessel truly capable of wielding such monstrous power. Seamlessly pivoting the conversation, the kid officially claims his classroom seat, pulling a massive, defeated sigh from the drained instructor. Bag totally secured, our blacksmith drops a slick bow and exits the arena without a backward glance. Left in dead silence, the master smirks, deeply entertained by the insane audacity and raw potential of that absolute menace. Strolling outside, peace shatters when a loud, dramatic shout aggressively steals his focus. Shocking literally nobody, the freshly humbled blonde senior blocks the corridor, questioning his sudden early departure. Stretching out his arm, the senior presents an ultra-premium envelope stamped in blood-red wax directly to our protagonist. Scanning the heavy parchment, our blacksmith immediately identifies that exclusive elite guild invitation Erica desperately tried shoving onto him earlier, just as the blondie admits the faction is packed with massive egoists, yet swears it is an absolute cheat code opportunity. Flashing a pure smile, the rival actually praises him for that brutal reality check, claiming, this VIP pass is his personal tribute for the lesson. Sweating slightly at the weird vibes, our boy pockets the premium loot, thanking his punching bag for such crazy random generosity. Resuming his solo trek, our protagonist mentally calculates his current stacked skill tree of extra courses, heavily min-maxing his sheer durability and physical stats. Obsessing over his final academy timetable, he considers weapon enchantment, only to violently crash straight into a bespectacled girl roaming the halls. Flexing insane predatory reflexes, our boy snatches her arms, a microsecond before her face totally meets the unforgiving concrete. Pupils dilating wildly, the magical nerd hyperfixates strictly on his custom gear, demanding to know if he personally crafted this masterpiece. Totally weirded out by her crazed energy, he flips the script, cautiously asking what it matters if he actually forged it. Absolutely vibrating with magical obsession, she desperately pleads to bless the blade, right as a blue holographic system prompt suddenly chimes, confirming a fated bond with Lee Claude. Accessing his regression knowledge, he instantly identifies this walking cheat code who could exponentially rank up any gear. Mind utterly blown by his insane luck, our main character realizes he just accidentally pulled an ultimate encounter with the Academy's greatest magical prodigy. Completely lost in the sauce, the genius frantically whispers complex runic equations, while our unfazed hero casually munches on a random sandwich. Without warning, she absolutely panics, aggressively tearing at her hair. Legitimately jump-scared, our crafter anxiously asks if the stats rolled terribly. Looking completely unhinged, the crazed enchanter screams that it is the exact opposite. His legendary ore boasts a divine synergy that breaks all logical sense. Overwhelmed by endless magical possibilities, she practically cries over which formula to pick. Meanwhile, our guy just flashes a laid-back smile, telling her there is zero rush. Sending her brain into overdrive, the freshman unzips his bag to reveal a massive, glittering stash of that ultra-rare material. Eyes sparkling like diamonds and literal steam puffing from her ears, the genius enchanter looks ready to spontaneously combust from sheer nerdy joy. Suddenly, a suffocating tension crashes the vibe. A furious upperclassman stomps into view, violently demanding to know who our main character is. Bouncing with excitement, Lee introduces herself as a third-year senior, totally hyping the rookie's god-tier forging skills. But the arrogant intruder? This mob character totally ignores her, barking at the blacksmith to shut his mouth and follow him outside for a chat. Having zero patience for pathetic bullies, our boy stays glued to his chair, bluntly asking if this clown is Erica's personal lapdog. Blazing with humiliated fury, the upperclassman violently slams the table, threatening to publicly beat the freshman to a pulp right there. Dripping with fake authority, the goon demands a groveling apology for destroying Lady Erica Ino's sacred VIP invitation. Barely stifling a yawn, our hero smoothly fires back that the mighty heiress herself shredded that worthless piece of trash. Then, going straight for the throat, the blacksmith ruthlessly exposes the truth. This pathetic loser never even got an invite, and he is just throwing a massive tantrum. Letting out a heavy sigh, our boy casually asks if Erica unleashed him, or if this desperate puppy is just acting out. Shocked by this absolute savage roasting, Lee flinches back from the bloodthirsty aura exploding from the triggered senior. Catching his fragile ego, the genius enchanter pushes up her glasses, instantly dropping all fear of this pathetic clown show. Boiling with intense public humiliation, the raging senior screams his lungs out, branding the blacksmith as absolute bottom-tier garbage. Completely losing his grip, the maniac violently channels toxic dark magic, summoning a massive swarm of deadly daggers locked straight onto our unbothered rookie. Not even blinking, our guy internally sighs, deeply regretting that Babel is infested with such fragile, mentally weak trust fund babies. Staring down a literal storm of magical blades, the freshman refuses to budge an inch, locking in a deadpan glare. Without warning, a horrifying pitch-black shadow erupts from the concrete, blanketing the crowded campus courtyard in an absolutely terrifying aura. Unleashing an ear-shattering screech, the shadow beast lunges forward, violently shredding through the glowing magic daggers like they are cheap, wet tissue. Swallowed by abyssal darkness, the cocky senior is blasted across the street by the crushing impact of the gloomy girl's crow. Watching from the sidelines, our genius blacksmith instantly realizes that this high-tier spell was never forged from raw mana alone, but was entirely spun from a lethal, bloodthirsty illusion. Sprawled helplessly in the dirt, the bruised bully gasps for air, completely clueless about what just hit him like a freight train. Rubbing his chin, our hero dramatically shrugs his shoulders, playing completely dumb about the insane chaos that just went down. But hidden on his back, his greedy iron affinity crest flares a blood-red hue, aggressively draining lingering mana from the shattered weapons. Flashing a wicked smirk, the rookie feels the intense rush of devouring the blades, proving that absorbing fresh steel is an absolute game-changer. Right on cue, the iconic glowing blue system window chimes into view, announcing that his iron-devouring skill just permanently leveled up the durability of his explosive ring. For the ultimate disrespect combo, he channels his boosted gear to flawlessly punt the last surviving dagger directly into the unconscious upperclassman's massive skull. With a brutally loud crack, the heavy metal hilt snipes the absolute clown right in the forehead, sending him straight to sleep. Leaving the battered human garbage passed out cold on the pavement, our legendary freshman simply turns his back on the wreckage, casually asking Lee to relocate their nerdy hangout somewhere cleaner. Still processing the chaos, the stunned senior fixes her glasses and flashes a bright smile, totally acting like a magical assassination attempt did not just happen. Strolling down the path, the brilliant blacksmith smoothly pivots, asking his new senior for the absolute best class recommendations in her magic division. Puffed with pride, the magic geek heavily pushes the ancient enchantment course, swearing that while the professor is tough, the secret knowledge is god tier. Abandoned in the grimy alley, the humiliated senior finally wakes up, viciously cursing the entire world while nursing a skull-crushing migraine. Trying to scrape his dignity together, he suddenly spots a terrifying female silhouette stalking toward him with deadly, echoing footsteps. Recognizing the gloomy powerhouse, the trembling lackey stutters Erica Ino's name, but receives only a freezing, lethal glare of pure disgust from the true boss. Shaking like a pathetic leaf, the desperate goon scrambles to present the discarded dagger, frantically offering it as hard proof of the rookie's dirty, cowardly ambush. Showing absolutely zero mercy, the stone-cold support queen flawlessly shuts him down, swearing to expose his pathetic failure directly to the clan's big brother. Paralyzed by sheer terror, the broken bully accepts his doom. Erasing him from her mind, the girl analyzes the blacksmith's shattered blade. Instantly mind-blown by the intricate metal runes, Erica realizes this insane freshman perfectly forged a high-level anti-theft enchantment by stealing her own personal formulas. Smash cut to the principal's office. The head evaluator officially stamps the paperwork, skyrocketing our boy's magical aptitude straight to the coveted E rank, completely bypassing the annoying school bureaucracy. Our main character jolts. The system suddenly flashes, screaming that a direct soul bond with Eric Anu is officially locked in. Gripping his hair, our boy instantly pieces it together. That brooding psycho was definitely lurking in the shadows, watching the entire brawl against that brainless lackey. Spinning the stolen daggers effortlessly, our rogue blacksmith sneers at the absolute garbage-tier metal, but figures it's perfect fodder to melt down for his black flame forging later. Exhausted by the endless drama, our guy slumps into his seat with a heavy sigh, finally tuning into the highly anticipated magic and rune lecture. Pacing before a massive chalkboard, the head professor clears his throat. He straightens up, projecting total authority, to kick off his deep dive into Babel's engineering limits. Scanning the terrified freshman, the veteran explains that metal physically morphs the second you tweak its monomatrix. Right on cue, a solid rock levitates, twisting violently in midair. This raw display proves how these mechanics birth ultimate weapons. Standing firm, the master drops a harsh truth. As future blacksmiths, they must grasp the absolute peak potential of whatever ore they wield. Today's brutal practical exam? Pure shape manipulation, using nothing but a basic iron ingot. Barking out orders, the master demands they channel their aura to carve a precise 5-centimeter engraving, then flawlessly reverse the damage. Blinking in shock, our hero realizes this boomer actually respects magical refinement. He instantly locks in on the brutal 10-minute timer. Across the lab, pure panic sets in as extras sweat buckets, whining that their warped metal refuses to revert. Not wasting a single second, our boy slaps his hands onto the iron, dead set on the grind. Oozing arrogant energy, the blonde rival loudly flexes that he crushed the challenge, but our protagonist calls out his finish at the exact same millisecond. Smirking, the veteran praises their insane speed, pushing both prodigies straight into the next nightmare phase. Swiping open a glowing holographic interface, the teacher projects a mind-bendingly complex matrix, ordering the duo to execute the formula. Flashing a toxic smirk, the rich brat calculates the rookie's pace, absolutely convinced he holds the crown. Cranking up the heat, the old man summons a chaotic web of twisted gears for the final boss tier. Sweating pure focus, both competitors warp the steel, and the blonde can practically taste the ultimate win. Clutching his finished masterpiece, the arrogant noble confidently brags, "It is utterly flawless from every angle." Shattering his ego instantly, the professor growls Hans's name with lethal seriousness. Cutting to the chase, the master commands the rich boy to revert his perfect gear back to base iron. The kid freezes. The second his aura makes contact, the masterpiece painfully crumbles and shatters, proving his monomatrix was total garbage. Shaking his head, the veteran states the iron literally choked under the pressure. His foundational forging technique was entirely backwards. Dropping some heavy wisdom, the master hammers home that understanding a metal's true soul is absolute law, before forcefully bending it to theory. If a twisted matrix cannot heal, the weapon simply decays instead of achieving evolution. Biting his lip in pure frustration, the rich kid swears revenge. The master coldly adds, "This single rule dictates everything's ultimate quality." Eyes burning with venom, the blonde glares daggers at our hero, desperately wondering if his rival foresaw this brutal trap. Delusional, he convinces himself the prodigy just got extremely lucky by standing around looking like an absolute fool. But surging with pure aura, our blacksmith flawlessly rewinds the iron block's state, casually dropping that his mission is complete. The entire room gasps. Whispers explode across the lab, baffled by how a freshman just shattered the unbreakable laws of forging. Hooked by this monster talent, the old-timer dares the rookie to duplicate the magic. Right before their eyes, flashing a wicked grin, our boy molds the impossible gear in a literal heartbeat. He totally baited the professor. Staring at undeniable proof, the master catches the trickery. He admits this godly feat was only viable due to beginner-friendly tweaks hidden in the ingot. Mind blown by this kid's scary intellect, the veteran internally panics, realizing he missed a massive loophole. Meanwhile, the ghost of the legendary flame artisan burns brightly in our hero's mind. That absolute monster originally engineered this transformation code. Even after countless decades, this god-tier theory remains an impossible puzzle for mortal blacksmiths, holding the ultimate secret of iron. Meeting the professor's gaze, our boy knows breaking that ancient formula is downright impossible. He just finds the old man's doubt hilarious. Hours later, a bloody sunset soaks the majestic academy in deep orange. Wrapping up the brutal session, the instructor officially dismisses the exhausted extras, but orders our overpowered rookie to stay behind. To honor his bold department choice, the master cracks open a heavily secured vault box, exposing a blindingly radiant red jewel. The system goes crazy, scanning the crimson flame gem as a super rare artifact capable of melting supreme ores. Hyped by the legendary drop, our hero inspects the prize. The veteran solemnly swears that devouring its core will permanently awaken his black flames. Bowing respectfully, the young blacksmith expresses his gratitude, swearing this exact material will absolutely revolutionize his next masterpiece. Wasting zero time, the seasoned veteran drops the bait, inviting the talented rookie straight into his exclusive elective class. Sharp as a tack, our guy instantly guesses the curriculum focuses on ancient weapon origins, catching the professor completely off guard. The kid is no fool. He knows perfectly well this specific department swims in endless funding from Babel Academy. But there is a catch. In his past life, this master was a complete unknown, screaming a tragically doomed fate for the man. Refusing to let history repeat itself, the blacksmith accepts instantly, completely brushing off the professor's warning about his already stacked timetable. Flashing a confident smirk, the prodigy casually explains he only takes 4 classes anyway, making the schedule perfectly manageable. They lock hands in a firm grip, officially cementing an alliance that will definitely shake up the academy. Instantly, the system absorbs the professor's affinity, unlocking a legendary fire-infused iron capable of storing extreme internal temperatures. Safe inside his dorm, our main character meditates on a crazy theory. If metal exists within humans, flesh itself can become the ultimate forge. Standard magic theory dictates that mixing elements triggers a fatal internal clash, an absolute death sentence for any blacksmith, requiring perfect mana control. Gripping the blazing jewel, he declares himself the sole exception. All the suppressive mana, choking his core, has already vanished into thin air. Hitting absolute zero energy means his vessel is primed to devour that pure crimson essence like a black hole. With zero hesitation, he resolves to construct a brand new internal mana circuit, completely devoted to the explosive fire element. Mid-absorption, a blinding crimson light erupts straight from his chest, radiating an absolutely overwhelming surge of raw, untamed power. Engulfed in a literal firestorm, the fierce blacksmith vows to hammer his own flesh and soul into an unbreakable masterpiece. The system suddenly chimes in victory. His baseline flame attribute just skyrocketed from pathetic F rank straight to E+. Immediately following that, the mystical body refinement skill awakens, massively supercharging every single physical stat our main character possesses. Deep within his consciousness, a traumatic flashback violently resurfaces. A shattered, bleeding body, mocked by a cackling crimson-haired woman. That legendary figure ruthlessly ridiculed his weakness, calling him a pathetic fool for surrendering, while priceless forging materials sat right under his nose. That brutal lesson permanently burned into his soul. His eyes snap open. This time, he will weaponize absolutely every single advantage available. Glaring at the pale moon outside, he makes a blood vow. In this second life, regret is not an option. Morning sunlight bathes the Babel campus as the hardcore instructor declares today's brutal trial. Perfecting their rough, unfinished, dialing the pressure to the absolute max, the veteran demands literal blood and sweat to forge academy-worthy, high-tier armaments. Pushed to their absolute limits, the desperate students ignite the massive workshop into a deafening symphony of clashing hammers. Dripping with exhaustion, our boy inspects his custom swords. Tragically, his current physical limits left the steel riddled with ugly microfractures. Gripping his heavy hammer, he frustratingly mutters the hard truth. Slacking off in this regression timeline is a fatal luxury. Channeling raw power, blinding sparks detonate like fireworks with every punishing strike against the anvil. Wiping his brow, the exhausted kid exhales deeply. That aggressive, rapid-fire patchwork will just have to suffice for today. Staring down his massive, unfinished arsenal, reality hits hard. The clock is dead, making a total repair job mathematically impossible right now. Cold logic dictates a sneaky strategy. Mass-producing, aggressively average blades would easily scam the Academy out of massive research funds. But his legendary artisan pride violently rejects that garbage. He chooses to forge one solitary, flawless god-tier sword instead. Without warning, his consciousness flatlines. The deafening roar of catastrophic, ocean-crushing waves suddenly violently echoes deep inside his skull. Eyes totally hollow, reality hits him like a truck. That apocalyptic auditory hallucination only triggers upon forging a mythic-class artifact. Inspecting the gleaming masterpiece, he discovers something terrifying. This is no ordinary edge, but lethal intent, literally branded into the weapon's soul. The glowing blue system absolutely loses its mind. He just birthed the white light greatsword, proving his insane willpower completely defies physics. Radiating a blindingly pure aura, the weapon claims a divine tier quality seal, officially branding this freshman as a terrifying academy anomaly. Taking his secondary, mass-produced blade for a quick test swing, our main character deems the destructive output decently acceptable. Flashing a predatory smirk, he realizes his legendary past life forging instincts are rapidly returning. Watching from the sidelines, the jealous extras are absolutely shell-shocked. One devastated student literally contemplates dropping out from the overwhelming skill gap. Fast forward to a chill Saturday morning. Our blacksmith finally unplugs, casually scrolling his timeline inside a high-end luxury cafe. During the meetup, Lee and our boy request a live enchanting demonstration. The upperclassman agrees, promising a secure, heavily isolated location. Trekking far beyond the bustling campus grounds, the smirking girl teases that her top-tier magical secrets require high-level security clearance. Standing before a heavily weathered, rustic forge named Akakov, the duo finally arrives at their highly classified, underground destination. Pushing past the heavy door, the senior announces herself under a ceiling of clanking metal pots. A grumpy, white-haired crone slowly turns, glaring sharply. "I am not deaf," the grumpy elder snaps. Eyebrows raised, she straight up asks if the freshman is the nerd's new boyfriend. That gets an instant, hard rejection. Trying to smooth things over, the upperclassman introduces our boy as this year's ultimate genius. The old lady just scoffs, writing him off as totally weak. Ignoring the shade, she coldly introduces herself as Helena. Our main character smoothly drops his name in return. Zero time for small talk. Helena orders the enchanter to start grinding. Their backlog is an absolute nightmare. With a sharp flick of her wrist, the veteran points them to the grinding station. Scanning the hanging pots, our blacksmith spots forging techniques that are just flat-out ridiculous. He instantly respects the elder as a hardcore, top-tier master, but the kid is lost. Why would a legend like her hide away in this rundown tool shop? Deflecting the tension, the nerd whips out a glowing color palette. She explains it is pure mana stone dust. Scanning the goods, our prodigy notes the crazy spectrum of colors. He casually asks if their daily grind is patching up busted magic formulas. Flashing a hyped smile, the senior shoots finger guns his way. He hit the absolute bullseye. Staring at the glowing palette, she brags this gig prints money while letting her level up her magic for absolutely free. Gripping her brush, a blinding golden aura explodes from her hand. She is locked in. Watching from the shadows, our main character remembers the real reason he came. This girl is destined for a brutal creative block. In his past life, he watched her tragic downfall. She lost everything, crashing hard during the brutal Babel exams. Studying her up close, the prodigy instantly diagnoses the core glitch. He knows exactly how to shatter her creative wall forever. Witnessing her absolute hyperfocus, the blacksmith admits that losing yourself in the craft like that is a ridiculously rare gift. Drifting away from the magic show, the boy explores the dusty shop. Suddenly, a hidden gem catches his eye. He examines a legendary whetstone. It practically hums, vibrating with magic circuits meant for god-tier effects. His hands literally itch with anticipation. He craves the rush of forging that pure white light again. Catching his stare, Helena issues a fiery dare. The elder barks at the rookie to grab any trash from the scrap pile. A cocky smirk creeps across the boy's face. He is totally down for the old-timer's chaotic vibe. Hyped by the premium gear, the kid decides to flex his skills. He needs to test this magic stone right now. The rookie reaches into the pile and snags a basic, totally average kitchen knife. Helena raises an eyebrow, completely baffled. Is this kid seriously going to waste her time with that garbage? Tracing the steel, the boy praises its flawless balance. He instantly realizes the original smith was a literal god of the sword. Scanning the grindstones, he locks onto the one with perfectly balanced particles. This ensures the cheap blade survives the crushing pressure of his sharpening technique. Moving like lightning, he strikes steel against stone. A wicked, piercing screech echoes as the blade literally slices the air in half. Blown away by this monster-level skill, the elder smirks. There is zero chance this kid is just a normal freshman. Across the dusty room, the nerd throws her hands up. She screams that the enchanting grind is finally over. Spinning around, the student nearly jumps out of her skin. The grumpy boss is looming right behind her, radiating pure menace. Pinching her arm, Helena totally roasts her. She mocks the senior for flexing on the rookie, only to completely swallow her own pride. Sick of the nerd's whining, the veteran barks at her to zip it. She shoos the student away with a swift smack. Back at the anvil, the boss demands to see the knife. The kid responds with calm, calculated confidence. Eyes glued to the glowing steel, the blacksmith admits he pushed it to the absolute limit for now. But he swears the next upgrade will be god tier. With zero hesitation, the grumpy owner immediately kicks them to the curb. Out on the sidewalk, the senior vents about the elder's toxic attitude, but our chill main character just shrugs it off. Left alone in the shadows, the veteran freezes. She stares dead at the terrifyingly sharp knife sitting on her bench. Boom! A dude in a slick suit kicks the door open, screaming to ask if his sister is smelting something heavy. Ice cold, Helena tells the loudmouth to chill out. She casually asks for the kitchen knife to finish their pending deliveries. Groaning, the suit complains that a legendary elite sword professor should not be playing house as a chef. Helena instantly shuts him down, warning him to keep his nose out of her business. Amidst the chaos, the buff guy spots the blade and snatches it up, But when he sees the absolutely demonic edge on that steel, he panics, asking if she forged this while drunk again. His jaw drops when the master flat out denies making the masterpiece. Just a freshman, she states flatly. Instantly, the suited man's brain completely short-circuits. Doubling down, the veteran confirms the impossible. A literal Academy rookie executed that flawless slash. While our main character strolls through Babel looking completely unbothered, the VIP's mind spirals, visualizing this new monster's insane potential. Through casual chatter, our boy uncovers some wild lore. This grumpy grandma actually ditched her metallurgy professor gig to run this chaotic forge. Sensing hidden tea, he digs for Academy drama. But the nerdy senior shrugs, claiming her departure was completely standard. Rubbing his chin, the gears turn in his head. He vividly remembers how this massive professor exodus ultimately doomed the entire department. Time for a deep dive. Switching gears, he questions her spellcraft. In response, the upperclassman totally hypes up his flawless magical foundation. She literally cannot spot a single mistake. Blushing hard at the massive flex, the nerdy girl beams a huge smile. Boom, reality check. Our boy ruthlessly points out her painfully rigid mindset. Stopping dead in her tracks, the enchanter looks absolutely stunned. Totally lost, she listens as our blacksmith drops straight facts. She sacrificed her raw creativity just to blindly follow the textbook. Preaching pure facts, our main character declares that boundless imagination is any true creator's ultimate weapon. He warns she is literally nerfing her own talent. Eyes snapping wide, the senior claps back. Deeply offended, he would call her clueless. Ice cold. The blacksmith watches her whole meltdown without flinching a single muscle. Refusing to take the loss, she dramatically pushes up her glasses. She snaps at the rookie to watch closely, because her time is literal money. Dropping some deep magic theory, she explains. Forging resembles tossing a pebble into a pond, while enchanting is entirely different. It is like etching that sunken stone's reflection onto the water. Suddenly, metal fractures. A crimson blade erupts, radiating pure, bloodthirsty aura known as the Crimson Lotus. Totally shook, the senior aggressively stutters out the complex spell names, watching the blade slice the very air. Scanning the weapon, her jaw drops. This crazy kid shoved all that raw power straight into the weapon's core soul instead of its shell. Glowing under the moonlight, our blacksmith casually drops another bombshell. If one magic circuit fails, just brute force stack more layers until it stabilizes. Ripping a vicious slash through the void, he demonstrates how violently mana explodes when circuits fuse at the blade's edge. In a literal split second, the invisible shockwave shreds the very fabric of space, sending violent tremors through the midnight forest. Following the strike, condensed lethal intent erupts. The Crimson Lotus absolutely melts away any spatial resistance left behind. Smirking at the absolute carnage, he admits it defies standard enchanting. But hey, real power shatters the rulebook. Drenched in cold sweat from that monstrous aura, the senior gulps. She finally realizes absolute geniuses tread the craziest paths, ignoring the fear of failure. Mind totally blown by this masterpiece, the nerdy girl literally dives at the freshman's feet. Begging on her hands and knees, she craves a closer look. Throwing a massive tantrum, the enchanter violently shakes him, screaming she will perfectly recreate it. She absolutely demands to keep that blade. Unbothered, our blacksmith tosses her the weapon, but forces her to take the heavy black ingots too. Overflowing with pure hype, the nerd leaps high, screaming her eternal love for this unbelievable freshman. Strolling back to the academy, that iconic system notification suddenly rings inside his head. A glowing blue holographic screen pops up. Level 1 connection with Creator Lee secured. He suddenly realizes her actual youth. Stepping into the absolutely massive arena, dark memories surface. He envisions the doomed future and that blood-soaked clash involving Mad Dog and the terrifying demon god. Meanwhile, that gloomy girl shadows his every step. Pausing, our main character questions this random stalking. Sporting a completely deadpan stare, Erica bluntly states she is just tagging along. She offers to bounce if he wants. Whatever. Shrugging it off, he lets her spectate from afar. The silent rookie nods in agreement. Done dealing with this awkwardness, our blacksmith drops a heavy sigh and heads inside to catch the brawls. Instantly, across his digital system interface, both girls' affinity stones glow brightly, exposing some seriously ultra-rare materials. Down in the heart of the colossal stage, a booming voice blasts through the speakers, welcoming Babel's freshmen. Visibly hyped, the energetic announcer, Lanfang, flexes her status as the youngest martial arts professor ever, hyping the massive crowd. This master demands absolute noise, signaling the entrance of today's heavyweight titans. Bathed in blinding spotlights, she introduces a legendary fourth-year veteran, famous for forging literal S-rank heroes. As the entire stadium shakes, this absolute champion and A-rank beast steps into the ring, radiating unbreakable confidence. Revered everywhere as the Holy Sword Master, this girl conquered the brutal Tower of Heroes. Flashing a razor-sharp glare, the living myth herself, Arya Myers, announces her presence, sending the grandstands into absolute pure chaos. Over the deafening roar, our main character flashes a dangerous smirk. He whispers that his ultimate target has finally arrived. Suddenly, the system rings, announcing the legendary Fire Spear heir. Up in the third-year stands, the blacksmith locks his gaze on the arena. He analyzes the challenger's combat stance. Known as a total prodigy, the notorious Mad Dog Manga storms into the combat zone, radiating pure, unadulterated fury. He is absolutely thirsty for blood. In a heartbeat, their weapons clash with devastating force, launching a massive shower of sparks. Refusing to yield, the spearman twirls his blazing weapon, unleashing an endless barrage of ruthless attacks. But the blonde champion stays icy cool. She effortlessly deflects the brutal onslaught, using just the hilt of her divine blade. The monstrous impact triggers a blazing shockwave across the arena, blasting both fighters backward. With a slick acrobatic backflip, the spearman creates breathing room, hunting for a fresh weak point. Watching from the bleachers, our main character spots that the Academy's gear support for this guy is absolute trash. Narrowing his sharp eyes, the blacksmith realizes the fatal flaw in his combat style is the actual weapon. Suddenly, with a seamless invisible slash, Arya's blade obliterates the tip of the enemy spear, instantly ending the brutal match. Sliding her sword away with pure elegance, the blonde powerhouse commends her rival's grind, officially wrapping up the hype spectacle. Blaring through the booming stadium speakers, the Swordmaster's epic win is crowned while the hyped crowd absolutely loses their minds. Fumbling his words, the announcer mentions, the defeated student dipped early for personal reasons. Brushing sweat from her brow, the champion confesses that battling the rank 4 fighter right from the jump was insanely tough. To kill time, the professor kicks off a Q&A. Meanwhile, the spearman angrily stomps toward the lockers, hands shoved in his pockets. Our main character senses the upperclassman's lethal aura, instantly knowing the guy is massively triggered. Ready to make a move, the kid turns around. Erica immediately grills him, asking if he is skipping out on the finale. Keeping it super blunt, the blacksmith claims he is not vibing with this circus, and totally leaves the girl hanging, leaving her thinking he is an absolute weirdo. Coping with the snub, the gloomy rookie feels glad he is not kissing up to her brother, but his sour attitude still baffles her. Glancing sideways, Erica spots that this mysterious freshman is pulling way too much unwanted heat. Dead center on the stage, the blonde powerhouse locks her sights on the exit, watching the mysterious boy vanish. Eyes flashing with intense curiosity, the champion wonders if this low-key rookie is the exact wildcard she has been hunting for. Scene shift. The wrecked spearman sits totally alone in a nearby park, desperately trying to chill his blazing temper. Strolling up with zero fear, our main character finally confronts Mad Dog. Burned vividly into the blacksmith's future memories, the grim vision of this future hero sacrificing himself to slay the demon lord hits deep. Breaking the tense silence, the kid bluntly roasts him, asking if the upperclassman enjoys replaying his humiliating L. Features twisting into a deadly scowl, the spearman slow claps the freshman's tracking skills for finding his secret spot so fast. Squinting his fiery eyes, the senior recognizes the rookie's face, demanding to know what the forging prodigy wants. Flashing a super casual smirk, the boy brushes off the dramatic hype, claiming he just dropped by to talk. With absolutely zero patience left in his tank, Mad Dog violently orders the freshman out of his face. Seething with raw anger, the fighter declares his absolute disgust for weaklings and promises this is his one and only warning. Going full arrogant mode, the senior spits that he heavily despises untalented trash, who constantly leech off others in battle. Totally unbothered, the blacksmith silently absorbs the toxic rant, while the guy trashes his blacksmith class like pure garbage. Searching his memories, our main character notes this guy is acting surprisingly polite, compared to the ruthless monster he becomes later. Staring down the rival's killing intent, the kid realizes mere talking is completely useless here, and instantly charges his mana. Seeing red, the upperclassman finally gets the memo that this gutsy rookie refuses to back down an inch. Icy and precise, the boy simply raises one finger, warning he is about to drop a massive truth bomb. With a chilling tone, he prophesies that the legendary Fire Spear's legacy will literally die in the hands of this absolute idiot. Blinded by rage at the massive disrespect, Mad Dog launches himself like a ballistic missile, charging up a deeply destructive punch. Not even flinching, the blacksmith instantly triggers his steel affinity mark to tank the brutal incoming strike. Boom! They slam together with earth-shattering force, but the freshman casually catches the fiery fist barehanded. Totally mind-blown by this crazy defense, the senior freezes in pure shock, seeing a rookie easily tank his mana-loaded punch. Taking him seriously now, the spearman admits. His top student title is completely legit, Cranking his aura to the absolute max, Mad Dog commands his blazing flames to dance wildly, unleashing the spear's authentic, terrifying power. Roaring a savage war cry, the guy rushes forward, screaming that it is game over for the freshman. Triggering a hellish explosion, a massive pillar of fire violently rips through the park sky, swallowing the entire battlefield whole. As the thick smoke finally clears, the blacksmith exhales, standing flawlessly untouched amidst the total devastation. Completely speechless, the senior totally short-circuits, unable to grasp why his ultimate fire did absolutely zero damage. Then, the horrifying realization hits him. The warrior freezes, realizing his fiery aura just got completely hijacked. Fists blazing with stolen heat, our main character proves who truly commands the flames. Jaw clenched, the spear-wielding maniac shoots the freshman a psychotic, dead-eyed glare, totally unhinged by that suffocating purple energy. Our guy instantly realizes his opponent's last shred of sanity just checked out completely. Flashing back to his past life, the blacksmith realizes this exact reckless rage sparked the legendary massacre of the Blazing Sect. Launching into the air, the senior unleashes a lethal tornado kick, while the main character calculates that his defensive barriers are practically shattering. Since playing nice totally backfired, our hero decides to absolutely demolish this lunatic in pure combat. Eyes locked and knuckles white, the crafter catches the rabid dog's strike, preparing to unleash hell barehanded. Suddenly, Jake Myers intercepts that scorching blow, asserting total dominance. Seething over the rude interruption, the crazed senior demands if Blondie is protecting the engineering prodigy. Brushing off the killer intent, Jake barks at the blacksmith to retreat immediately. Voice dropping low, the blonde orders the freshman to zip it and honor their pact. Now totally isolated, the upperclassman finally chills out, bitterly regretting almost dragging his clan's sacred martial arts through the mud. Walking back, Jake goes off on him, stressing that the freshman would be literal toast without his clutch save. Shrugging off the lecture, the blacksmith tells Blondie to drop the theatrics and demands to know his true agenda. Out of nowhere, the system interface chimes, locking in a hazardous bond with the mad dog and activating affinity draining. Our boy mentally calculates his next move. He has to somehow buddy up with that maniac just to siphon his overpowered stats. Pivoting hard, Jake hypes up the rookie's insane guts and jokingly checks if his knuckles are totally shattered. Flexing his fists, the blonde brags about his unbreakable skin. Squinting with pure suspicion, our main character completely ignores the flex and cuts right to the chase regarding his infamous sister. Dead serious, the crafter interrogates his ally about what exactly he snitched to Arya Myers. Sweating bullets in the arena, the blonde utterly panics, frantically attempting to dodge that loaded question, trashing his own sibling as a nosy tyrant. Ice cold and sharp, the blacksmith points out that the golden boy painted a massive target on his back during the tournament. Flashing back, the absolute legend eavesdropped on every rumor regarding the firebending prodigy right from the bleachers. Smirking at the juicy intel, our guy admits that baiting the ultimate champion was his core strategy all along. Freaking out, Jake screams that the freshman is dancing with death, completely clueless about his sister's true nature. 0% intimidated, our main character fires back, branding the so-called savior as a stubborn, manipulative schemer. Rubbing his neck awkwardly, the blonde drops his act, admitting that roast is painfully accurate. Quietly, the crafter remembers the dark truth behind his burning hatred for that divine warrior. In his doomed past life, the legendary Holy Swordmaster stood as mankind's absolute beacon of salvation. But on one cursed afternoon, her sacred weapon violently snapped, exposing its fragile, pathetic reality. The second that blade crumbled, Earth's ultimate protector literally ghosted the entire planet, plunging humanity straight into the apocalyptic abyss. Stepping over the hero's legacy, the terrifying demon god of annihilation materialized, swinging a cursed blade forged from pure malice. Snapping back to the present, our boy realizes her current angelic mask conceals a deeply twisted darkness. Objective secured, the freshman casually turns on his heel, announcing his dramatic exit to the dorms. Utterly baffled, the golden boy stands stranded, wondering where exactly their chat derailed. Out of nowhere, Jake's smartphone buzzes, flashing a toxic text from his sister, ordering him to keep playing her pathetic messenger bird. Drenched in a terrified sweat, the blonde feels that Golden Viper's invisible noose choking the life out of him. Bright and early the next day, our main character absolutely face-plants onto his lecture desk, completely drained by yesterday's chaotic grind. Without warning, the classroom door blasts open, and the wildly eccentric Professor Lisdover rolls in on a hovering podium. Oozing weird charisma, the top hat-wearing geezer declares he is taking over the elemental mastery classes for the next 14 days. Judging by that chaotic drip, our boy immediately deduces this is the legendary instructor, infamous for being an absolute lunatic. Before diving into the textbook stuff, the old wizard announces it is payback time for their latest forging exams. Locking eyes with our rookie, the master reveals his crafted blade is currently missing a system score. Slightly annoyed by the academic red tape, the crafter snaps his head up, demanding the crazy professor spill the actual truth. Chuckling with pure amusement, the elder drops a massive bomb. The weapon was so insanely overpowered, it got fast-tracked straight to the sophomore auction house. Brain working in overdrive, our boy instantly suspects that snobby vice principal is pulling shady strings to sabotage him again. Sensing the rising tension, the eccentric master swears that if this was a rigged setup, Professor Kim would have already nuked the whole operation. Having hooked the entire room, the hatted legend claps his hands, loudly declaring that today's brutal session will focus purely on manipulating residual magic. Jaws drop across the room as the professor summons a guest assistant, and Mad Dog storms through the doorway, looking absolutely pissed. Completely blindsided, our main character stares, trying to figure out why this explosive senior crashed their class. Invisible lightning strikes between their locked gazes. Clueless to their lethal stare-down, the boomer instructor waves the senior center stage. The teacher aggressively scribbles complex magical theory across the chalkboard, breaking down leftover forging mana into two distinct categories. Category 1 is your basic stuff, injected straight into the blade. Type 2 is rogue mana, a wild force that drains or spawns raw energy from its surroundings. Tapping his cane sharply, the veteran warns everyone that taming this rogue energy is an absolute nightmare. However, mastering it crafts legendary gear. Wasting zero time, the elder orders the spearman to flex his mana control for the gaping audience. The veteran highlights how ridiculously chaotic fire magic is, claiming only absolute lunatics ever manage to conquer its blazing leftovers. Taking the spotlight, the senior twirls his weapon, conjuring 3 flawless blazing halos that scream god-tier elemental mastery. Seething with pure envy, the wealthy blonde kid mutters from the shadows that he struggles keeping a basic forge lit. Smirking viciously, the professor dares his rookie students to drain every drop of wisdom from this top-tier guest star. For their brutal assignment, the elder commands them to craft literally anything, using the scorching aftermath of the spearman's aura. Flicking his wrist, the instructor orders the entire crew to gear up and march straight to the glowing anvils. Spotting a massive cheat code, Hans immediately sprints over to glaze the senior, desperate to snatch some elite VIP secrets. Radiating absolute zero energy, Mad Dog brutally tells the rich boy to kick rocks, leaving him standing there completely shattered. While the crowd clears out, the elite fighter blanks everyone else, dropping our blacksmith's name with terrifying deadpan intensity. Trapping him in the deserted corridor, the senior aggressively pins him down, demanding how this freshman knows his dark history. Spilling his clan's lore, the fighter confesses their ultimate secret art demands, juggling 6 blazing infernos to achieve true mastery. Intensely curious, the veteran admits he watched the rookie effortlessly shatter 3 fiery halos, interrogating if the kid is smurfing. Flipping the script, our hero drops an absolute nuke, casually asking if the senior ever unlocked the mythical 7th inferno. Paralyzed by disbelief, the elite fighter turns into a statue, entirely mind-blown that a random kid cracked his ultimate secret. Radiating pure chill, our crafter reveals he sensed a horrific glitch in the guy's aura during their epic park brawl. The freshman drops hard truths, stating the senior is basically bleeding his fiery potential away like sand through his fingers. Totally cornered, Mad Dog desperately asks if this rookie can actually patch his tragic leak. Flashing a ridiculously cocky grin, our hero confirms he holds the exact cheat code for this major handicap. Sweating bullets, the upperclassman fiercely demands the full mechanical breakdown, but our boy chooses to troll him, utterly refusing to drop top-tier knowledge for free. Spinning around, the crafter throws shade, warning his premium coaching rates are about to hurt. Raising one finger, the freshman establishes rule number 1, demanding heavy compensation for every single piece of legendary advice dropped. For requirement 2, he orders the raging senior to chill out and actually book a session whenever his progression softlocks. Dialing up the intimidation, the main character drops a harsh ultimatum, forcing him to sign the verbal contract right now. Knuckles turning white, Mad Dog ruthlessly crushes his own ego, instantly locking in the crazy demands without a single flinch. Thrilled by the absolute dominance, our guy smirks darkly, ordering the elite fighter to actually sweat for his keep inside. Back inside the blistering forge, background students whisper frantically, totally baffled by the weird power dynamic between rookie and god. Entering the zone, our guy casually chucks raw minerals straight into the blazing inferno, completely skipping the blueprint drafting phase. Flexing his god-tier stats, he fearlessly plunges bare hands into the roar, perfectly blending fire and dark ores 7-3. Spying from afar, a random extra totally fails to grasp the high IQ play. He aggressively mocks our hero as a total noob for letting mana vanish. Unbothered, The freshman mercilessly cranks the temperature until raw elemental fury literally bleeds from the molten rock. Juggling blistering fire and pure aura, he violently commands the molten slag to devour every ounce of that raw power. Rattled by this insane display, the top-hatted veteran murmurs that the kid is executing the legendary firepower displacement art. Flashing a hidden grin, our main character knows the clueless crowd just sees a totally basic crafting animation. However, staring deep into the roaring blaze, Mad Dog suddenly detects a massive anomaly unfolding before his very eyes. Through this savage showcase, the rookie is literally weaponizing the flames outward. He pulls the shadows deep inside, forging clashing powers into one flawless energy loop. The spearman watches in absolute awe. The truth hits him as he whispers that the ultimate puzzle is finally solved. Flashbacks flood his mind. The Grandmaster demanded he purge the shadow energy, claiming it poisoned his blazing core. The mental chains shatter. The senior grasps that embracing this forbidden synergy is his absolute ticket to a legendary awakening. Letting the heavy truth sink in, he manifests 6 pitch-black blazing halos, admitting this desperate path was his only breakthrough. Locking eyes with the rookie, he drops a harsh reality check. His 5 Dark Lotuses easily crush the Academy baseline. But then, the dark truth drops. Slipping down the leaderboards means kissing his royal successor title goodbye for all eternity. Skipping the extra drama, our Blacksmith dares him to unleash both auras simultaneously just once during the brutal live exam. Crimson and Midnight flames violently clash. The catastrophic blast nearly nukes the entire training chamber into absolute dust. Panicking, the spear wielder admits his shadow affinity has gone entirely rogue. To make matters worse, the official judge lands tomorrow. Running the math, our crafter realizes this fool getting stripped of his rank means immediate expulsion, totally wrecking their master blueprint. Wasting 0 seconds, our main character grips the senior's shoulder. He casually asks how much blood he would spill to survive. Mad Dog's gaze burns with raw desperation. He swears he will literally do whatever it takes. Smirking at that sheer loyalty, our boy summons the holographic interface. The harvested core materializes as a blood-soaked obsidian gem. Flipping the pulsating orb skyward, our main character commands an absolute and instantaneous evolution of the current weapon system. Down in the elite VIP zone, the Spearmaster snaps at the rookie to stop acting like a tourist. Brushing off the toxic attitude, our kid praises the tech. He slaps the control console fully, ready to hack the environment. One swift tap later, the holographic walls glitch out, morphing into the legendary old-school sanctuary of the Blazing Sect. Exuding icy arrogance, the senior absorbs the nostalgic vibe, flexing that he barely ever spawns this specific memory map. Levitating the abyssal crystal, our main character directly initiates the raw forging process, creating absolute magic on the spot. A blinding shockwave erupts. The mineral brutally twists itself, mutating into a sleek polearm crafted exclusively for dual wielding. The system flashes a god-tier rating. The eternal war between Inferno and Shadows has finally birthed a devastating harmony. Gripping his freshly birthed gear, the warrior glares at the twin daggers. He questions if this crazy combat style is real. Staying icy cool, our crafter drops the ultimate command. The left arm must vomit dark embers, while the right channels pure void. Mad Dog immediately swings into action. Dual-toned infernos violently detonate, surging forward in an absolutely terrifying and lethal strike. But mid-twirl, the aura completely derails. The majestic power fizzles into pathetic sparks, forcing the utterly pissed upperclassman to retreat. Totally baffled, he angrily demands to know why his explosive output just instantly flatlined into absolute nothingness. Playing the cold genius, the kid explains elements usually fuse smoothly. But right now, the senior's internal flow is straight garbage. Breaking down the fatal flaw, he reveals a lifetime of suppressing the shadows, has severely hardwired his brain to reject it. To shatter this mental cage, our main character orders him to completely trust the god-tier weapon and spam the move relentlessly. 3 agonizing hours bleed by. The warrior violently shreds the air, literally dripping sweat inside the holographic battle arena. Observing from the sidelines, our boy silently notes that Mad Dog's monstrous growth speed is genuinely terrifying. Every single breath and muscle twitch is now flawlessly syncing up with the insane combat rhythm he engineered. Tracing the mana circuits, the crafter watches pure power surge through the warrior's veins, erupting flawlessly from his calloused palms. Annoyed by the intense creeping, the senior drops his guard. He snarls, asking if his battle posture is somehow defective. Playing it smooth, the kid lies about running system diagnostics. He severely warns the upperclassman to keep his massive ego in check. Chuckling darkly, our main character boasts that a supposed amateur would never hand over god-tier gear without running extreme beta tests. Completely pivoting the vibe mid-rest, the main character casually drops an absolute bombshell of a question into the silence. As the blade rests in the dirt, the kid probes deep. Why is this elite fighter so disgustingly obsessed with claiming the throne? Visibly stunned, but keeping his cool, Mad Dog coldly states, it is simply his master's absolute command. End of story. Dripping with blind loyalty, he proudly flexes his disciple status. He is just a perfect weapon, executing the clan's grand design. Hanging in the fake dojo holographic portraits display the legendary S-rank powerhouse, who took this broken orphan off the streets. Chilling on the mats, our crafter connects the dark dots. This so-called mentor holds totally terrifying psychological dominance over the warrior. Memories flash of this exact upperclassman getting tossed aside like literal garbage. Our main character refuses to let history violently repeat itself. Cutting the pleasantries, the senior glares directly at the rookie. Why is an absolute nobody breaking their back to save a Babel elite? The main character's eyes darken, haunted by visions of a shattered future and the endless onslaught of the 6 demon realms. Memories flash back to territories drowned by the sea of chaos, birthing twisted monstrosities that slaughtered millions. Facing this nightmare, he coldly vows to infiltrate those shadowy dimensions himself, but he needs ruthless, living weapons to survive. Smirking at the brawler, he drops a heavy truth. Conquering the Flamegate makes this guy an unbreakable meat shield for the upcoming war. The blacksmith scoffs, making it crystal clear. This isn't charity. It's a calculated transaction where both sides strictly profit. Mad Dog's knuckles turn white around his spear. He smirks, fully understanding that in Babel's ruthless hierarchy, survival costs everything. Eyes blazing with ambition, the spearman vows to drag himself through hell for the kid, provided he secures total leadership. Locking in the strategy, our main character issues a grim warning. The upperclassman exists solely to pave the road to victory. Meanwhile, he will personally execute the demon god. Sealing their blood pact, the kid tosses the mana stone skyward, declaring, "No backing out now." Instantly, a crimson light bleeds into the blacksmith's vision, triggering the ominous resonance of the dark artifact. Bathed in bloody light, the system locks in the savage affinity transfer. Mad Dog's devastating new martial art is officially born. Fast forward to tomorrow. The camera pans across the grand dojo, buzzing with visibly sweating, anxious disciples. Center stage, Master Kanghan 1 dramatically welcomes the young heir, casually mocking how long it's been since they last clashed. Eyes narrowing, the spearman spots the background lurkers. He demands to know who these random spies are, crashing their private beef. The instructor doesn't even blink. He straight up confesses these are the Grandmaster's personal lapdogs, sent to spectate the impending slaughter. Radiating pure killing intent, Mad Dog snaps back. The throne is still empty, so these extras better keep their jaws shut. The veteran master drops a painfully fake apology, heavily dripping with sarcasm, and pushes to skip straight to the actual bloodshed. Stance locked. The heir immediately rejects the offer, catching the arrogant boomer off guard. Voice dripping with absolute authority, he raises the stakes, demanding the legendary trial of the 7 rings to showcase his overwhelming dominance. Lurking in the darkest corners, the ambush coordinator smirks, a wicked grin. If the brat plays hero, he will personally crush him later. By strict guild laws, clearing 7 rings means fighting a veteran instructor head-on, 0 tears, absolute 0 mercy. Chuckling like a maniac, the fossil taunts the kid for shaking in his boots, betting he'll forfeit immediately. Completely out of patience, the spearman lays down the brutal law, declaring this deathmatch is strictly about turf and raw power. He challenges the old man to step into the killing zone. Gripping his twin spears, Mad Dog embraces the chaos. He stares down the veteran, practically begging him to strike first. The boomer bursts into arrogant laughter, trashing the dual weapons as absolute garbage. But with a lightning-fast dash, the veteran erupts into a blazing assault, totally blindsiding the cocky master. Seething with rage, the instructor starts barking orders, screaming about the patriarch's strict taboo against fusing dark magic with holy flames. Refusing to yield a single inch, the spearman growls that true supremacy is forged in clashing steel. Swearing absolute agony, the veteran ignites his own terrifying aura, promising to make the brat choke on his arrogance. Boom! The dual auras smash together, violently erupting into a towering inferno that completely blinds the arena. Jaws drop. The master shrieks in pure horror as his ultimate fire dragon technique gets brutally shredded by the kid's dark mana. Showing 0 hesitation, the abyssal blade violently slices right through the enemy's barrier, landing a flawless, devastating strike. Standing tall amidst the smoke, Mad Dog coldly throws the insult back, calling the boomer's moves pathetic garbage. Cutting away from the carnage, our main character demands the next phase. The upperclassman casually flexes that his instructor promotion is guaranteed. Always eyeing the endgame, the boy instantly demands the exact roadmap to stealing the entire sect leader throne, uncovering 2 insanely brutal requirements. Breaking it down, the spearman confesses he must hit the legendary 8-ring realm and secure the political backing of the region's elite masters. Stroking his chin, the blacksmith severely doubts this psycho's social skills, but the brawler smirks, promising to beat their votes out of them if needed. Smugly, our main character notes the ticking clock. framing today's one-sided massacre as proof their master plan is bulletproof. Switching to business mode, the kid sharply reminds his partner to cough up the heavy compensation for his godly blacksmithing carry. Bowing his head slightly, the upperclassman swears to drain the sex vaults for any gold or rare materials requested. Never satisfied, the main character drops one final, urgent demand, totally catching the fighter off guard with his aggressive timeline. Examining the bloodied spear, the blacksmith shrugs. The weapon worked perfectly, but it was honestly just a rushed, low-tier prototype. Shivering with adrenaline, Mad Dog drools over the apocalyptic damage he could dish out with a fully finalized version, forged with absolute perfection. Dripping with pure ego, the senior aggressively demands his ultimate weapon upgrade, causing the boy to curse out loud, ordering the battle-crazed maniac to sheathe his blade before he accidentally murders someone. A sudden digital chime echoes. The glowing interface confirms his destiny bond, with the elite spearman just skyrocketed to rank 2. The holographic blue screen updates their bond into a legitimate business partnership, meaning every swapped favor now prints ultra-rare destiny stones. Cut to the grand auction house. The massive arena is absolutely overflowing with filthy rich elites and high society nobles. Elite judges take the stage while the sharply dressed host hypes the roaring crowd, officially launching the forging department's ultimate showcase. Chilling in the stands, our main character scans the massive turnout. His buddy swears this insane mob only showed up for the legendary freshman. Locking eyes with the judges, our hero smirks. The shady vice principal cannot pull any dirty tricks with all those VIPs watching his every move. Suited Mikhail watches like a hawk as the system drops the brutal new quality test. Revealing a glowing, mystical fabric, the host drops a bombshell. This insane material is literally crafted from an S-rank monster's hide. It boasts god-tier durability. To demonstrate, a standard blade viciously strikes the magical cloth. Crack! The blade shatters on impact, shooting off wild sparks. This demonic cloth is literally designed to ruthlessly destroy weak weapons. It totally wrecks any blade that maxes out sharpness, while completely ignoring structural durability. The real bloodbath begins. The hype man summons the very first sword crafted by a nervous student to face the trial. Watching intently, an upperclassman questions this bizarre trial. Our boy immediately leans in, asking what the actual catch is behind this rigged test. Dropping pure lore, the kimono-clad girl reveals the terrifying truth. That white tiger fur literally mirrors the sword's own cutting force right back. The feedback utterly obliterates metal on impact. Panicking, his buddy realizes our freshman's ultralight greatsword is walking straight into a death trap. Hyper-sharp blades are naturally glass cannons. Flashing a wicked smirk, the main character calls out the vice principal's painfully obvious sabotage attempt. They want to publicly humiliate him and Master Kim. Radiating absolute confidence, our master blacksmith declares that pathetic trap only works on trash-tier crafting. The gavel slams, shipping off the previous weapon. Finally, the sweating host rolls out the absolute final, most anticipated masterpiece of the night. Time for the lethal stress test of the legendary white light greatsword. 0 effort required. The boy's massive blade cleanly ghosts right through the impenetrable barrier, leaving the entire arena paralyzed by that god-tier, absolutely impossible strike.